Neo has arrived.
I barely made it.
Me too. I also forgot how to join the lives. I was sitting there like, wait, how do I do this?
You're the only one that knows how to do it. You can't forget.
I know.
Precision railroading. I don't know what that means. I decided to tear apart my little set.
So fast.
I
Someone's asking if we're talking about stargates.
No, actually, we can't talk about that today at all. Sight. I was just re-listening to your reptilian video, and as I was
the Prison Planet one or the other one.
I listened to the Prison Planet one first, and then I was listening to the reptilian one. And I was like tearing apart my little office set, and then I looked, and it was 6:56. I'm so bad at this. But yeah, the reptilian one is so interesting because at the very end, you like dropped this like tease, but I don't think you ever got back to it. And you said like every president is related to Dracula.
Yes.
Where's the proof?
You know what? I want to use your same comeback that you used on me.
No, you're not allowed.
About being user 307445 with no picture.
But where does that idea come from?
Okay, so basically, okay, yes. So that was my introduction into conspiracies. I was once an Agent Smith also, where someone was talking to me about this stuff and I got super angry at them. And one of the things that this person said when we got into this argument, I literally physically pulled him and threw him out the store. That's how Agent Smith I was. I was actually a physically violent Agent Smith. Throw him out the store. But one of the things that he said during that conversation was, yeah, well, don't you know all the presidents are related? And I'm like, oh, come on, get out of here. And when I went home, I looked it up. Are all the presidents related? And yes, they are. So first, there was a girl. I mean, so like obviously this has been known. We almost lost you there.
I'm situating. Continue.
So, yeah. So first, the first thing that came up was this 12-year-old girl, and she basically had like a class about like her family tree. So she got like, I don't know, that she's an overachiever. She couldn't just do her mom and her dad and everything. She went all the way back and she realized that she was related to some of the presidents. So then she kept going and she kept going and going and going, and then saw that all the presidents, except for one, were all descendants of the same, I believe it's one of the King Henrys. So they all go back to, so that's every president. There's one that's not, which was Martin Van Buren, which if you look him up, he's a total piece of shit. So like, it's not like he's a good guy that got through.
He was just one of them.
Yeah. And that's just one specific king that they all are descendants from. So there's probably other connections in their bloodline. So then you kind of go a little bit further and you're like, oh, wow. Then you see that all the monarchy is all descendants of the same bloodline. And then basically everyone can be traced further back. But then another one of these like big points that you see everyone is connected to was Vlad the Impaler. So, and which is the person who they say Dracula is inspired by. And, you know, we all know Vlad the Impaler as being just like, you know, that like brutal king. He used to impale people and like leave them out on his lawn impaled and shit. And then, you know, you go a little further, they're all of those kings, all of the monarchy goes back to the pharaohs, to ancient Greece, which then goes back to ancient Sumeria, which probably goes back to the Anunnaki. Now, the Dracula thing is interesting because, you know, we talk about reptilians and we talk about like this whole like energy vampire thing that they're possibly about like this whole like energy vampire thing that they're possibly vampire theme. That's where it comes from. Is him drinking blood and feeding on people and feeding on their fear. So, and then there's another one. I don't know if you follow infographics on YouTube. I freaking love infographics. That guy is so thorough. Like nobody is more thorough than him. So there was this thing that people were saying that the Queen Elizabeth, is a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. So then he goes back and he's a freaking master of genealogy and everything. Like he's the greatest researcher. So he goes and traces the whole lineage from the Queen back to the Prophet Muhammad. And basically what he says is that, yes, she is a descendant, but through marriage. But he's only going through one line. So he says it is possible that she actually is on like another way, but through the line that he went, it was through marriage that she was a part of that lineage. So it's crazy that then, okay, so they're all related to Vlad the Impaler. Then if they're all related to her and she's a descendant also of the Prophet Muhammad. So it's like, and then what? They're all descendants of the Anunnaki, which, okay, there's no proof of that one, but we know where that's going because, you know, there's no proof of that one, but we know where that's going because, you know, the pharaohs were, you know, mated with the gods, and that's why they were the pharaohs.
Yeah, I have a strong suspicion that the pharaohs were not human, or not human, but that's really interesting that about Dracula, because I just recently heard that is it Prince Charles is still alive?
Did he just die?
He just
also
died.
Someone just said Queen Lizardbeth.
That barely works, but I'll allow it. He like his favorite place to hang out, he would spend months in Transylvania.
He would?
Yeah. I have zero
and that's
evidence,
the whole thing,
but it was just one of those things. Alex Jones was on a roll, and he was like, he stayed in Dracula's castle. And then the person who was interviewing him was like, what do you mean? And then it wasn't Dracula's castle, but his favorite place to like live was Transylvania, and he spent a lot of time there.
Okay, so Transylvania, this is the rabbit hole that I've yet to go down, but I own this very interesting book that I only read the first 2 chapters. So fascinating. I don't know why I didn't keep reading it. So it's called Transylvanian Sunrise, and it's really interesting. It's basically, so like, you know, the Montauk Project?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically that, but a version that's happening outside of the US that, so, you know, they had to stop the Montauk Project. They never stopped it in Romania. They actually moved all of it to Romania, and they've been doing it there the whole time. And this book is like, so the first chapter is written by this guy who, he had like a publishing company, and he published like new age and spirituality books and stuff. And basically he got approached to talk to this guy in Romania who, and I only got into the second chapter. The first chapter is written by the publisher, and then the rest of the book is written by the guy who had the actual experience. And from the time he was a kid, he kind of had like some special abilities or whatever. And the Romanian government would come to his house several times a year. They would do tests on him. The parents kind of just were like going along with it. They didn't know any better. They didn't think like anything.
What was the time period?
The person is alive now, so it's recent. Like it was like in the 80s or whatever was when this person was a child. And yeah, so it's this guy's like whole experience of being a part of this like Montauk Project, but the Transylvanian version of it.
So I'm wondering if we were funding that, or if it was totally like,
I think so, because it's And there's another guy, there's like a scientist that was involved with the Montauk Project who then went there, who was directly talking to the author, but then goes and disappears for a couple of years. And so that guy got transferred over, and then they end up getting like reconnected again. But I really need to go down the rabbit hole of this book.
Exactly. Someone said, like Stranger Things, heavily based on the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia experiment, which I always get those two mixed up. So for me and the audience, do you
for
have
the Philadelphia and the Montauk?
Yeah. And I believe that the Montauk Project was wrapped up because of a disaster. The public facing project was wrapped up because of a disaster, right? So if you want to go into that, I'm sure people would love to hear that.
I don't know so much about it, but the Philadelphia Project, I mean, they both involved, like, they were trying to do some type of time travel, and they were trying to basically teleport and things like that. But basically, what I know of the Philadelphia Project, I have to still, explore that, is actually in one of Dolores's books. She asked about it. She asked about the time travel, and she asked about what really happened with the Philadelphia experiment. And so my understanding is from the book, which is probably not what the public knowledge is about it.
Yeah.
And basically, the information that came through under hypnosis was that there was like a ship of Navy SEALs, and basically they did this, I don't know, they were doing this experiment. They used this ship as one of the things that they wanted to try the experiment on. And they wanted to basically take the ship and move it somewhere else. And in this book, basically, it went so horribly wrong. They said that they were able to move it, but when they moved it, the people were like, their body parts were on the wrong parts of their body. And it was like the most horrifically traumatic thing that, like, everyone involved with it and the scientists and everything were like super traumatized by it, which is why they didn't keep exploring it in that way.
So my understanding of it was very similar, but it was more along the lines of,
someone said they were fused into the ship. Oh, exactly. Hey, it's the 100th monkey.
There he is. Let's get him on.
I know. Can we have another person added? I don't know.
I don't know. I thought we could. I thought we could have anyone join while we were going. But my understanding of it was that they didn't really know what they were trying to do. They just knew that they had like a powerful technology that could like shift things through time or space, and that it disappeared and then reappeared, but it reappeared in multiple other places, like unexpected, at the same time. And then when it came back, people were fused, and that I think where this came from was one of the sailors on that had on the ship happened, and he like saw it. Someone said most of them are fused on the ship.
Wow.
So that seems to be one of those things that I don't know. It like I know the details are a theory, but it's kind of out there at the same time. I've also heard something along the lines of they had some of Tesla's technology and they just literally didn't know what it was for, and they were just testing it out. Wouldn't be the first time that the government just like loses lives trying
like, let's see what this does.
Yeah.
But let me see, how do we add another person?
No, they didn't know that it was happening. They might have known that they were doing some research, but they didn't know it was happening. Someone said the Philadelphia experiment was time displacement by manipulating magnetic fields.
Oh, wow.
And to the 100th monkey, I apologize for not responding to your DM. 100th monkey, I apologize for not responding to your DM. But so I made it. We're there.
We did it. He said he doesn't know how. I don't know if we can add a third person. Do you see anything on your side that you can add another person? Because my little thing, the co-host thing, is blacked out now. Both lives will continue separately. Oh.
Okay, that sounds like it would end it.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't think we can.
All right, we will research that for the next one, because I
But
know
so
we.
you guys know, I think we're both planning to do lives with him. So
Yeah,
that's coming up. He's been doing
correct.
like those shape shifting videos. I love the shape shifting videos.
Yeah, I like his format a lot. Can you read his out for people?
It's the 100th 100th monkey.
So his format is he gives a really clear intro and kind of his perspective on something, and then he almost always has footage or
Mm-hmm.
photo collage or something. So, and he doesn't hold back, and he covers like everything that's going on.
I know. He really
Someone
doesn't hold
said,
back.
Steven Jared Brow said 100th Monkey is awesome.
I
Can't
know.
see
We
your
love it.
face is cut in half. I did that intentionally. The other half of my face is horrific.
The
Just
other
kidding.
half of your face is on the ship from the Philadelphia Project.
Yeah, fused. Yeah, that's horrible though. You probably shouldn't laugh about that because,
No, right? Because
the
people
truths.
refuse. Yeah.
We'll talk about it after.
We'll laugh in private.
But yeah, so, and then I also did just watch your Prison Planet one, and I like your take on it because most people, that's such a attractive and horrible idea, the Prison Planet one, that it's kind of one of those things, once you hear about it, you're like, oh, that's probably what it is. So you're
I
very much.
know the Prison Planet, I was trying to in that video like make people like not be afraid of it, and I think it totally backfired, and people totally were more afraid of it than they needed to be. I felt really bad after that. And
Well,
those type of topics bring so it's a negative topic, so it brings so much negativity. And for the most part, I have pretty like good people that are like commenting on my videos and stuff. So that is like a wave of douchebags. Like it literally was like I felt like an avalanche of douchebags all day long. It's still, if I go to my mentions and everything right now, it's like you're stupid. Like,
so do they think that it's definitely that's what it is, or just the topic itself is corny,
they
or?
think that, it's delusional. Most of the people are like, oh, take your schizo meds, but then spell schizo completely wrong. Like, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to make fun of this. Just
And
going to
that
block this person.
that perfectly goes into another idea that's getting a lot of traction. It's getting a lot of traction right now. I really like it. Fourth movie that just came out last year, but that the Agent Smith idea of people just kind of.
Wait.
It's
You
like this
think
thing
that the fourth
program.
Matrix is terrible?
I mean, okay, so I have kind of like two or three modes, just like everybody else. One of them is like everything means something, and I'm enjoying it for this. And I watched that movie in like movie review mode, not in like what does this mean? What are they trying to tell me? But I really liked the first half where he is in the new Matrix and he's going throughout his life. It like resonated with me. It kind of made me a little sick to my stomach. Because it's like it made me sick because he knows exactly what's going on, but when it's presented to him, it's like my feelings about so much of what's going on is that it's all a show. And it's like when Morpheus presents the situation to Neo in the bathroom and he's like, okay, choose, the same old thing. Neo still like acts surprised, but he kind of knows what's going on the whole time. He knows that it's not reality. He knows that there's something wrong. And he's actively experimenting with the programs in the Matrix to see what's going on. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like I'm operating on like old hardware with old software where I'm like, okay, well, I have to go get money and so that I can like pay these bills and stuff and do this and do that and worry about these issues. But I just don't feel like it's real. I know it's not real. I
Mm-hmm.
know so much of what controls our day to day is based on today's news. So it kind of like gave me a sick feeling watching that movie. And then by the time it got into like punching and kicking and stuff, I think I was kind of checked out.
I loved it. I thought it was so good. I loved the fourth Matrix. I think like all of it, like the whole thing in the beginning of his life and him kind of, you know, feeling like when he sees Trinity in the coffee shop, kind of like feeling like he knows her. All of these little things I felt were like so accurate. And then also too, the part when they're all gonna go into the Matrix and you know they're talking, they're like, you know, in that other world place. You know, I actually didn't see the parts 2 and 3, so I don't know what that other place is. I know
you're
I
gonna
saw
tell
1 and
me
4.
you didn't like the Matrix 4? You didn't even see 2 and 3?
I didn't see 2 and 3. I heard 3 was terrible, but then again, I don't know. A
Yeah.
lot of people said the fourth was terrible. I enjoyed it. And when they all like decide that they're going to go into the Matrix, and then like they step forward and they like volunteer to go in, I was like, the volunteers coming to Earth to shift to the new Earth. I was like, I start crying.
It's like there's these archetypes all around us, and there's been times where I've been experimenting with certain things where reality kind of folds in on itself, and it's one, everything becomes one, and it's like this really simple joy feeling. And it's only ever happened one time, and it was very off-putting and it was very unsettling, but it does seem like all like everything, it applies to everything. There's just these archetypes, and I really love that idea of the volunteers coming to Earth. And I was just explaining to somebody recently about like they were scared, they were afraid, kind of talking about like why do I have to be here while this was going on during this time. And I just started pulling lines right out of your book, like just well, you're here because you might have chose this. Like you know, Earth might kind of need you to be here, and it feels scary, and it feels be here, and it feels scary, and it feels like way overbearing. But the fact that you're even thinking that, the fact that you're even thinking about these things, so many people are just suffering and they're depressed or they're fine, but they're not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow or what's been going on or what's going to happen to anybody else. If you're feeling like, why do I and other people have to be here during this time? This sucks. It doesn't make any sense. You have empathy and you're like doing critical thinking. So you're probably here for a reason.
I so agree, and I feel like even especially in the Prison Planet video that I did, so many of the comments were, the reason I know this is bullshit is because I wouldn't choose this, and I'm like, well,
you're not you.
I'm like, well, also I would tell you, but you have to go back and watch like 100 of my videos now.
Yeah.
And you're clearly not going to do that. And I don't want to encourage you to, so that I have to see your 100 negative comments come through. But it's true. Like, I mean, I felt that way when I was younger. You know, when I was younger, I felt like very like, oh God, why am I here? I didn't choose to be born, you know? And actually, you know what? You did choose to be born. Sorry to break it to you.
I think if you have like a really strong, like inner voice, inner monologue, that's a pretty good sign that you probably volunteered. You probably have been through this a lot, or it's been a while since you've gone through something really hard, and you've just been powerful for so long. You got to go through it, because I go through that every day. I mean, this has been such a huge, monumental shift the last couple months in my life. And it's like, I'm trying so hard to keep up with all the positivity, because so much negativity is like from the last few years, it's just like dragging at my heels. And it's like, it's done. It's time for all that to be over. But I still have that conversation multiple times a day, like, oh my God, why do I have to deal with this? And it's just like that inner voice immediately picks up, and it's like, you know why? You know exactly why you're dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. It's a lesson. Just do it. stop telling people close to you that you're doing, like, yeah,
Have you ever have you read the book Untethered Soul?
I've actually never read a book. No, I haven't read that.
The audiobook is free on YouTube on my audiobooks playlist. I know I'm a broken record when I say it, but it's like so good. So it's basically a very like good, easy awakening book. It's great for people at like any point of the awakening journey, especially early on, but it's good at any point. And it talks a lot about that inner voice, but then you have that other inner voice that he calls your inner roommate, who is kind of like the other inner voice that doesn't really contribute anything. And he describes it kind of like you have
Kind
one
of an
inner
asshole.
voice that is like, yeah, one is your higher self, and then the other inner voice is kind of the one that contributes nothing, the one that's like, it's hot in here, like obviously your body feels it's hot. You don't need the inner voice to reiterate what the body's already feeling. That's the inner roommate. Your higher self is not the one like, wow, this tastes good, you know?
Maybe some more
or like,
pretzels.
shit, this traffic.
Yeah. So
it's Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, someone's asking.
Tiffany Gingrich says, I love both of your work. Whose do you love more, though?
She's on your side, but I think it's me. I'm just going to go with it.
I don't care. I didn't hear it. So what does that make you if you have your higher self and your like kind of doldrums self that's like, ooh, what are you a combination of it? Are you, I know you're not separate, but are you just like your active self? You're like the
one is like a spiritual connection to above. The other one is kind of like the ego conscious mind that it's not coming from above. It's not a separate thing. It's kind of like these pathways in your brain of negativity. Like the operating system. And that's the one that can be silenced. In the book, it talks about that. Like basically it can be silenced. Also, you know, that's the stuff like Joe Dispenza's work and Marissa Peer's work. And a lot of these people who talk about like reprogramming the brain, those are like how you really like get that inner roommate to shut up.
Yeah. I really like that idea for people that are really obsessed with like the fear of death and what comes after. Something that really eased it for me, it wasn't like an intentional search of like what's going to happen. It was just like along the way, you know, you're reading and listening to different podcasts and stuff, and it wasn't what's the guy that is just always on about Göbekli Tepe? I can never remember his name. It's someone.
Billy Carson.
No,
Billy Carson.
It's the other one. Oh well. Anyways, he was talking on Joe Rogan about how like we have no idea what consciousness is, but like kind of the thing that makes the most sense to him is that like the brain is it's like an organic supercomputer.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that makes the most sense is like we don't understand consciousness because it's like a signal that's being received, and when the computer or whatever, when the receiver goes out, the signal just goes somewhere else. It doesn't like energy or anything. So that kind of helped me. Like it just it's one of those things that just clicks for you. Like, and the rest of the body works like a, you know, little meat machine. So it just kind of, I don't know, it's kind
if it's even matter.
If you know, it's not.
That's the other thing too, you know. This was another one of the people on the Agent Smith post today was like, oh, people want to say I'm Agent Smith for believing in reality. And I'm like, well, reality is a hologram. He's like, yeah, well then what are we? I'm like, a hologram?
I don't have a problem.
Our brain is a tuner of the hologram. Well, our consciousness is a tuner of the hologram.
I don't have a problem with somebody just believing in like the base set of rules for reality at all, but like get out of the way.
Yeah, like, but don't be a dick. Don't comment. Go live your life if you want to go live in that boring reality.
Exactly. Like, you can comment. You know what? On that Stargate video I just put out, I got a lot of comments that I haven't seen before, and it was like a specific tone, and it was like, this sounds kind of crazy, but wouldn't it be great if it was true? I had like
Interesting.
maybe 10 of those, and I love that, because it's like, as I was writing that video, I said out loud, this is the craziest video I've ever written, because it was like, it seems so nutty. It's not really any, you know, it's not anything more crazy than anything else I write about, but like, it just felt crazy while I was writing it, but it has so much written about it, like all the Iraq stuff and Saddam Hussein and all that stuff has so much photographic evidence and historical ties.
And also, you know, we know that that's ancient Sumer, you know,
I think that's one of the two
which is
most.
where the Anunnaki was, which was most likely, did they come here on a ship? Which was most likely, did they come here on a ship? Did they get here through a Stargate?
Yeah, and I like the Stargate. I like the Stargate idea because it's almost like a faster than light thing, like you step into it, but the Stargate kind of works for all the different ideas. Like, okay, we're on a planet and you want to go to a different planet, and you can just fold space with the Stargate, but also the idea of a physical alien being here is like really hard to compute for like distance. So the dimensional thing makes a lot of sense. I think we talked a lot about this before, in our last live, about shadow people and stuff. Like, it might be like a 4D person manifesting in our 3D world or something like that. And the Stargate kind of works with that dimensional idea as opposed to the spatial idea. So I really like that. But yeah, it was just nice to see people, like, you don't have to agree with something to enjoy the video.
Yeah.
If I believed every single like conspiracy video or scary, I mean, I would be in a nut house probably if I believed everything I saw. Like, you are I didn't I know this isn't I'm not speaking for both of us, just so people know. I didn't start my channel to change people's lives necessarily. I just really enjoy talking about this stuff, and you get to a point in life where like everybody has that like conspiracy friend. And I don't know, it's just like, you spend so much time investigating and researching. It's like, what is this for? I'm just going to start talking about it. But then almost immediately you get people that are putting you in a box. My first video, this was unintentional. My first video was like about the moon. And that is like the most volatile thing you can talk about, because you get religion, you get space is
The
fake.
moon for some reason is very triggering. I don't know why
Yeah,
the moon is like a hot button for people.
because
I haven't even talked about the moon yet.
In what context? In your
On
current series?
TikTok, in real life, I have, of course. I've spent way
Yeah.
too much time talking about the moon in real life, but not on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't think the moon is what we think it is, but I want to talk about Sumer a little more. I think that's one of like two most important places when you're talking about like our history. And I just it is so crazy to me that with everything that was going on in the 80s and 90s, it's not more well known that Saddam Hussein was going around going, I'm Nebuchadnezzar.
I actually never heard that
I'm
until
a
your
Babylon.
video. Your video was
I'm a
great, by the way.
Babylonian king. Thank
Your
you.
Stargate video was really good. And like what we talked about, I really don't know much about Stargates. It's not been something that I've kind of the path that I've been led toward. I really don't know much about them.
I am kicking myself right now because that shout out video you sent me today. There was another Alex Serves T. Yeah, there was another creator in that list, and he does almost specifically Stargate content and the Law of One content.
Oh,
and
Marco No Polo, huh?
Yes, content.
Oh,
and
Marco No Polo, huh?
Yes. His guys. So I just wanted to make sure, like, respect to him, he's great. That's like the Saddam Hussein thing. It's not something that can be disputed. There are bricks still in rebuilt walls in ancient Sumer, like, grounds where they found all this, like, rubble, and it says Saddam Hussein, son of Nebuchadnezzar. So we all know how dictators are. They get this idea and they have to go for it. And he was like, yeah, I'm an ancient Babylonian king, and that's why I'm in charge.
What a dick to tag an ancient site.
Yeah.
Saddam was here.
I don't think he was particularly like, oh, I love Nebuchadnezzar, that's why he was like, I'm better than him. And this is seemed to be going back into speculation, but the speculation is that he wanted to, Nebuchadnezzar the story is that he just had this fiery pit, and all respect to the religious people in that thread, but everyone got really mad at me that was a different time period and different people, and that Jesus was the one that came back. But I just want to remind everybody, like, the Bible has been rewritten and edited and obfuscated for thousands of years, and a lot of stories in the Bible are written in almost identical ways throughout ancient history. It's more than likely like another set of archetypes. But Nebuchadnezzar had this ring of fire, and he knew it did something, but he didn't know what it did, just like the Montauk Project. And so he threw some wise men in there, and they came back with a ascended being of some kind. And the speculation is that Saddam Hussein, he didn't want to send anyone in. He wanted to unleash whatever force was in there. Of course, he assumed he'd be able to control it, but that didn't work out for him.
No. And I mean, it also goes to, that kind of is a weapon of mass destruction. A Stargate, a destruction to reality.
And a lot of, like you said, a lot of people will come down in the comments and say, like, we were there for oil. It's like, well, yeah, of course. If they have oil, we're going to take it. But that's it was.
But it's more than that, because if you look at all of these, lands that are having this problem, like, we have Iraq, Iran, and like, Iran was the Garden of Eden. And also Iraq was ancient Sumer. And then even right now, everything that's happening between Palestine and Israel, they're fighting for Jerusalem, which is important in all three of the major religions. So it's like, when you really look at like the ancient history of these lands that we've been, having these big issues with, where it's like very like media driven, very media narrative driven. When you look at those ancient look at them ancient times, it's like, really, like, what's really going on? Are these places like portals or stargates or energy centers, and they want to keep the energy negative on those energy centers to keep the entire vibration of the planet low,
Some things are just entertaining to me, but that is something, and not the specifics, not whether it's a Stargate or whatever, but I 100% believe that we just have no idea what was going on in ancient times. Like, they can say we know because they found these scrolls, but the stories don't add up. And what someone Robert Roundtree just commented, there's pyramids at the bottom of the Great Lakes, and that kind of goes into the point that, like, these places are so much more ancient than we think, and there's very similar pyramid-like structures with very similar builds all over the world, including North America, including similar builds all over the world, including North America, including South America. There's so much evidence pointing towards the Middle East being absolutely a technologically advanced place. But people get really caught up on that because to us, technologically advanced means like cyborgs with, like synthetic eyeballs and a metal arm or something, and like an iPhone. But think about what an iPhone really is. Like we know by now that the reason that we all have iPhones, the reason that they're so readily available is because it's the biggest surveillance system that's ever been rolled out in our history. So like ultimately the iPhone and most of the technology we use now has shrunk the internet and made technology smaller. So it's fast, but what price are we paying for that speed, and what price are we paying for that access, and how much access are we really getting? Think about technologically advanced through a different lens, like free energy, like free instant healthcare, like perfect health, being completely in tune and balanced with nature, actually knowing like what cycle the earth is in and when these cataclysms are going to happen, and being in tune with the magnetic fields and the ether around them. Like it would look totally different, and most of their structures that were left over seem to be like the base portions of buildings that were drawing energy. So like I don't know, I'm becoming fascinated with the Middle East, and I think next I'm going to be looking into Turkmenistan, specifically. Have you ever seen pictures from Turkmenistan?
No, I haven't.
It's extremely hard to get there. They don't let very many people come visit, and they have the most beautiful Tartarian looking buildings there. I mean, just the most ornate, massive, huge towers, just absolutely gorgeous.
Wow.
It looks like paradise there.
Wow. I have a friend that is very into the Tartarian stuff and is like all of these like old books that he paid like a lot of money for that are out of print. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting. It's like something like that I haven't explored that much. It's really only what he has told me. But it's really interesting, the ancient Tartarian stuff. Because there's a lot of evidence of it.
Barnes says everybody addicted to pH. I'd like, Barnes, if you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Addicted to pH?
Yeah. Would that be like in the water or like the acidity?
I don't know. And what you were saying too about the phones being a surveillance, I think also on the other side, this is in like the Pleiadian channeled books that, I read. I think it was from either Earth or Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Marciniak. And they talk about how, and also that book was published in like 1992. So we didn't have iPhones at the time that the book was published. Some of the stuff applies even more now. And they talk about like basically that computers and the internet is actually just a physical manifestation of what our consciousness already knows exists. So then you go one step further and it's like the phones are even further down that, because it's like if we're all connected and we're all one and we're all part of one system, then it's like now having a phone where all of us are connected and everyone is sharing ideas with each other, and it's like this collective thing that's happening. There's also like the positive side of it, that it's like the phones are also a physical manifestation of what we can understand the universe to be.
Yeah. It also kind of seems like, I mean, it made connecting to other like minds like instant. And it kind of seem like this is kind of a throwback for us, I feel like, at this point, but
someone's asking where I am, that it's still light out. I'm in LA, by the way, guys.
She's on a set.
Like, what the hell? Yeah.
It kind of seems like things are speeding up faster and faster. Like, it seems like when I used to try to research a topic, it would be like, I'd be on Reddit and then some like random message board, and then it'd be like,
oh, those random message boards were so good.
And I have to be like typing a URL into YouTube, and then it wouldn't have really any information. And then 3 months later, I'd see a Twitter screenshot, and I'd be like, oh, that's what I was looking for. And now it's like I go to look into a topic, and I'm so able to find. So it's
the
like
algorithm is already filling in the blanks
exactly.
for you. You think about a topic, you open TikTok, and there's a video of someone talking about it. That's how crazy it's gotten.
But I also feel like I kind of feel like I'm in a constant like game with the universe. And by the universe, I don't mean like literally everything, but I mean like whatever thing I'm like playing this little tug of war with it. It almost seems like I and we, a lot of different people, can so easily access so much information, because it's almost like behind the veil, it's like, say it. No one's gonna listen to you. And people will listen to you, but it doesn't matter. We're in the end game. Like, go ahead, tell them.
And there's no stopping it at this point. You know, when there was only a couple people, it was easy to stop them, you know? When it was just like, you know, William Cooper and, you know, Alex Jones and David Icke. When it was just kind of those people, it was easy to say like they're crazy. But now that there's millions of people that are doing it, you know, that we're not even probably aware of.
Look what they had to do to Alex Jones to take him off the game board, and he's still not off the game board. And I don't care how anyone feels about Alex Jones. I'm not going to get into it.
He's an OG, and I love him, and he's hilarious. I think he went off the deep end for sure.
Someone said out with it already. Out with what? Storm? You out with it.
As someone on my side says, power to the people. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't mind.
Yeah, Alex Jones is an OG because you know what? Before anyone had the balls to do it, he broke into the Bohemian Grove with a camera and recorded them doing their ritual. So nobody will be able to be the young Alex Jones ever again.
I don't think that I would believe half the things I believe, or I don't think I would have disguised things I believe, or I don't think I would have disguised. It's not even a belief. One sec, Storm. I wouldn't know so many things if I wouldn't have seen that Bohemian Grove footage. That, if you guys haven't seen the Bohemian Grove footage, just type in somewhere. It wouldn't be on YouTube, I don't think, but you'll be able to find it.
I think it still is. I think you could still find it, but also BitChute, you know, BitChute's where you get the goods.
Yeah.
Although I don't explore it that much because there's so much dark shit on BitChute that I'm kind of like, I can't do this today.
Storm said, just meaning instead of the powers that be keeping quiet, out with it. But that's part of the game. They do tell you. They telegram everything they do way ahead of time, during and after. It's always happening. I'm working on a video about I don't know why I'm so sketched out to say this out loud, but like the term, because I just know.
Well, we're all listening. And it will be on YouTube.
Someone said somebody just got shot. Probably a lot of people are getting shot right now. But I'm working on a video about black goo right now, and it's like,
oh, right.
It exactly like what the theory that this stuff is. It is in media, like going back decades, and like every level of pop culture, it's always had like a weird place as like this horror movie, like monster, or like
someone's saying it's in Moonfall too, the black goo.
I still haven't seen that. I need to watch that. Big Bang.
That's the thing is, I don't even fully know what it is. I've seen my friend has done a video about it. He doesn't do videos on TikTok. He does them on Instagram. His name is Johnny Has Lost It. He does really good conspiracy stuff on Instagram. But he did a video on the black goo. And it's like, I don't fully understand what it is, even because those are kind of like the areas that I don't get as far down.
For me, it's just been like a mind worm. It's one of those things where like I kind of just read it, and I read it in a context of like maybe.
And also, hold on, someone's asking this question that needs to be addressed. Is it true that Dolores Cannon was only hypnotizing psychiatric patients? That's not true at all. Her, if you read even one of her books, you would know that that's not true. I don't mean that in any type of rude way, but like, I don't believe most of the people who say these things have never read the work of the person they're insulting. And I'm not saying that that person's insulting her. They probably heard that from someone, but that's not the case. You could book a session with her. You know, when she was alive, you were allowed to book a session with her directly. So just as anyone else, you know, can get clients, that's the way she got hers. And even if you read Keepers of the Guardian, it talks about how she ended up getting her main subject that was in most of her books, Phil, how that ended up happening. That was kind of like the universe set it up. So yeah, no, she didn't ever do psychiatric patients as far as I'm aware. The only thing that she did that was different than like paying clients and stuff like that was she worked with MUFON for a while, and she did hypnosis on people who were involved in the MUFON community and had been abducted. And yeah. So, and then she stopped working with MUFON because there was so many negative, crappy people in the UFO community that she was just like, this is not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to be fighting with skeptics and stuff. She's like, my message is for the volunteers who came here to change the planet. She's like, I'm not here to prove to some guy that it's the planet. She's like, I'm not here to prove to some guy that it
that is just one of the like ways that people discredit other people. Well, everyone they work with is a psycho or this or that. It's like you have to be careful when you hear something like that. You can almost always discount it, but if the information seems important to you and then you hear someone say something like that to you, that might be like an Agent Smith scenario, and you might, if you're really worried about it, just look it up. You know, just look into it. Scott's Busy said, "Are you into remote viewing?" I love the idea of remote viewing, and
have you tried?
you know who else is really into remote viewing? The military, the U.S. military. We wouldn't know anything about remote viewing if it wouldn't have been so deeply documented.
Mm-hmm.
I've never tried, but
I haven't tried because I have a little bit of like apprehension about it, just because like anything that I want to go look at is probably not safe to look at.
I would.
And what am I going to do? Remote view? But you know what, too? Sometimes people, like, I've heard of people, like, you know, people who are psychics and stuff on social media, like spiritual influencers and stuff, talk about, I think, was her name Miriam Hasna? I might be saying her last name wrong. I probably butchered it. But she's the one that has the 5D. No, she has the New Earth Mystery School. She's like got a huge following. And she had an incident where one of her like followers, was remote viewing her in her house because they were like, I don't know, obsessed and curious or something. And it's like, don't do that.
People, if someone remote viewed me, they would immediately hang up because it's so boring. Yeah, I really like the idea. I'm kind of referring to the Scott's Busy guy again. I really like the idea of remote viewing. And in our last live, I don't know if you were here, we were talking about under the Vatican and how many thousands of pounds of relics and treasures and scrolls, and just they have this huge vault, and how come nobody's ever remote viewed it? But there has to be some kind of protection.
Are people who have remote viewed all of these different things. You know, I mean, there's a guy, Jason Shirka. I don't know if you guys follow him. I don't know if he's on TikTok. He's on Instagram. He did an interview with George Norrie, and they had another psychic come. So Jason Shirka, he claims to be involved with this thing called the light system, TLS. And he says it's basically kind of like the CIA, but good guys for the light. And that they basically also have an underground facility. There's a 400-year-old rabbi is one of the people who is one of the main leaders of this organization. And it's interesting. I don't know how I feel. I find the information interesting. And in one of the interviews, because he has this 400-year-old rabbi and this whole like CIA of light going on, he has all this other information about what is on the planet and stuff like that. He does talk about some of these stargates and stuff too, and how they've been taken over, and now the light system is like taking them back. And he talks about, I don't know what it's called. It's like a dome in the Middle East. Someone's going to know the name of it. It's a dome that is like one of the most sacred sites, the light system, TLS. And you probably won't see anything online about it except through Jason Shirka's stuff. And he talks about this dome. I don't know if anyone knows the dome that's in the Middle East. Dome of the Rock. Yeah. So it's a sacred site. He says that under it, there's all of these things. He apparently has all this information about what's under it. They had a remote viewer compare what she saw in remote viewing to what he was saying, and they were matching up to the same thing. So I found that interesting that this, they kind of like, talking about the same thing. Yes, the one in Palestine, I believe so, the Dome of the Rock.
So let me ask you a question. Israel, Palestine, who you got? It does, to kind of get, one of the first questions I had for you for this live, we kind of got caught up on the Dracula thing. This idea of loosh. I had seen that term around, but only I only ever used between people that already knew what it meant, and they never would elaborate on it. And so you don't think that there's any like energy feeding going on? Is that why you don't like the term? Well, first,
I just feel like first of all, it sounds gross.
I know it's disgusting sounding.
First of all, it sounds.
Like, I've never had a problem with moist, but then I read loosh one time. I was like, ugh, I don't want someone to have my loosh.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like, a lot of people don't like the word moist. Exactly. Like, I didn't have that problem, but loosh, ew. So yeah, loosh was coined by Robert Monroe of eventually the Monroe Institute, which is where, the remote viewing practices were all like specialized, and they did experiments on them. And that was what was involved with the Gateway Project, or was it the Gateway Process that they called it? So he has been doing the remote viewing. He was one of the people who trains people on remote viewing, and he's the one who coined the term loosh. And he says that basically, what he discovered through remote viewing was that there was these fourth dimensional lizards that are, feeding on people, and that basically they do things to manipulate our world because we're their cattle, Someone commented on the Prison Planet video, which I thought was great. It was like, yeah, of course we're someone's cheeseburger. You're always going to be someone's cheeseburger. I was like, yeah.
There's always a bigger fish.
Exactly. And the fact that we've been so trained in school to say, we're the top of the food chain, isn't that suspicious? Like, isn't that suspicious? It just ends with us. That's just the top.
No matter what, until like just a couple things about society change, and then suddenly we're not the top of the food chain. So I know you don't like the word, but how do you feel about that idea removed from the Prison Planet thing? Because I know that
they're connected, but not, and yeah. They're not exactly the same thing. So the way I feel about the loosh situation, I do think it's happening. I do believe in it. But I don't believe that this is a prison planet. I think that they've
No.
manipulated the matrix. I think that we have gotten sucked into this cycle. And one of the things that's talked about, I think Elizabeth April talked about it. Also, that guy Tim from Cosmic Disclosure talks about it in one of the episodes. That basically the sexual trauma that is happening on this planet in such a sick, disgusting amount, especially, the trafficking, that's part of that system. Because basically, the amount of energy that comes from it, the amount of power that comes from it, but also it causes so much trauma that the person, and this is what I couldn't really get into in the Prison Planet video because there's only 3 minutes, was that type of trauma is going to be hard to heal, especially in a lifetime. So basically
Most
what
people don't.
happens is majority don't. It's honestly brand new that people are starting to heal from it in the last 20 years probably.
And what do you do when you don't heal that kind of trauma? What do people usually do? They usually end up inflicting the same kind of trauma, and it's like a cycle.
Or they, don't get to live in their purpose, bare minimum, so like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's, because so many people, like the percentage of people who have is so high that, we can't really say that people will inflict that, because then that would mean like, a crazy percent of the population are, assaulters.
I don't think it's a coincidence that, like, over the last couple of decades, so many different forms of media have become absolutely fear-based. And we were just talking privately about this earlier today. Like, certain things that have been going on recently, it's so fake and it's supposed to scare you. It's like this nothing event.
Even today with the stuff that's happening in the news, what we're not going to talk about, because I mean, you could just go to Instagram and see nothing but that.
They want the people that are loud when they're scared to get scared right now.
Mm-hmm. And to make other and to make other people scared on just a very basic level. Let's say even on like a one-on-one private level. Let's not even say on like the whole global scale. One-on-one, if there's some type of abusive situation going on, fear is the main tactic that's being used in any type of abuse situation, control, narcissism, everything, even if it's down to the fact of you would never make it without me. It's always down to fear is the ultimate control. So it's like when we see that on like even the ultimate control. So it's like when we see that on like even like with your dog, you have a fear of it's going to get in trouble if it does something bad, so it's like we use that even to train dogs, like, I mean, we use the reward system because we love them, but at the same time, they know that they go in the crate or they get locked up if they don't do the right thing. And it's like,
here's one point about that. I think most highly trained, skilled dogs with jobs, they're not trained with negative reinforcement, because those dogs aren't going to be as effective. Those dogs are trained to reach their maximum potential so that they can do their jobs, or so they can assist whoever they're supposed to be assisting. Or if somebody's just paying to have their dog trained, they want the best behaved dog, the smartest dog. But when you mistreat a dog, even though it might act right around you, the second it's not around you or gets into a scary situation, it's going to get, it's so riled up inside. It's so afraid. It's never going to reach its true potential. It's never really going to be happy. It might be comfortable sometimes. And doesn't that just feel exactly, it feels like exactly where we are right now. Like,
it's like going to school when you're a kid, like you'll get in trouble if you talk to, or if you do this, or if you do that. And it's like, we kind of have that, like, now it's like there's more rewards because people are nicer, but it used to be like, I mean, people are nicer than they've ever been.
There's more people. Yeah.
Sadly, because there's more accountability for being a dick, because you basically get in trouble for bullying now, you know. But before, it was negative reinforcement. Oh, okay, you didn't listen to the teacher, well, now you have detention. Now, you know, you don't get to go to recess, you lose your privilege of this, you know. And same thing, you know, with parents too. If you misbehave, you get punished.
Yeah. I think it's just very clear that, like, why is pornography so widespread and so extreme and so free, and why is like every news story is about something we're supposed to be scared about? I mean, we don't even have to get into that. Everybody knows, like, nobody watches the news anymore because it works at first, but then 2 years later you're still like running the numbers up, and then like there's a border dispute, and they're like, World War III is on, it's happening. Oh, it's not happening. Well, what can we do to like either make it seem like it's happening or just make it happen? Let's just make it happen. Let's just do World War III. Everything is accelerating because it's not working anymore. Like, there's too many people that they might not listen to people like you and me. They might not be people like you and me that are like, what is that? What does that mean? That's interesting. I'm going to spend 4 hours researching it today, and I'm going to make a video about it. They might just be out there going, that's bullshit. I don't believe that. Like, people are just like, I don't think the Great Awakening is a joke. And whoever is in power, whatever they are, they don't think it's a joke either. They firmly believe in it, which is why, I mean, talking about fear, in March of 2020, I was scared shitless. I was so afraid.
I mean, we all were when Tom Hanks got it. When Tom Hanks got it, oh my
totally.
God. And I remember I was at work. I worked in a restaurant in Beverly Hills, and like the entire Lakers were coming in that night. And we were like, well, what's happening? We're like, Tom Hanks has it. The schools are closing. This one guy's like getting a call. He's like, oh God, my kid's school closed. And like, then the Lakers canceled because one of them tested positive, and we were all like, damn, man, we're not making any money tonight. And then like our entire job shut down for like 6 months.
Yeah. And I live in a place where there were continuous riots for months on end. And I didn't just have fear like, oh, I'm going to get sick or something like that. That, for some reason, I just never felt like that. I just kind of, that's one of the, I'm careful with sharing anything about that sickness, but I just was never really worried about it. But I was so worried about humanity. I was so like stressed out because it was like this huge portion of like our people were like, you know, freaking out and like talking about how everybody wanted to kill them. And then it was like law enforcement and the people in power did everything wrong every step of the way, to the point where you're like, oh, it's not an accident. They're trying to make it look as bad as possible. And you get to a certain point when you realize they're trying to scare you, and that you kind of have to pull yourself out and just see it for what it is and let it play out. Someone's talking about how traffic was wonderful during that time period. I agree. I had about a 35.
That was the best part.
Unfortunately, I was
there was nowhere to go, but it was nice to be able to try.
What were the workers called again? It was God, what was it called when you were like allowed to go to work still? I forgot.
Not for essential workers.
Yeah, unfortunately I was an essential worker at the time.
Oh, so, that sucks. I mean, no, it doesn't suck. It's good, but also
I remember
because the essential workers were really getting like abused, because it was like the whole world was shut down, and then they're working double of what everyone else was.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw like a big digital like street sign over the highway on my way to work, and it said stay home, wear a mask, save lives. And then that night when I got to work, they handed me a little laminated paper that said like where I worked, what my position was, and that I was allowed to be at work because it had something.
Like if they were going to be checking, like freaking V for Vendetta opening scene.
They were sure that they were going to be checking. It never happened, but they were positive. They're like, "You're going to need this. Keep it in your glove box." So I was like, "Why are we doing this? This is such a bad idea."
That's creepy. Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful because I have worked so much in my life. I literally worked like obsessively since I was 15 years old. So when that happened was like the longest that I hadn't worked, and it was what needed to happen. Like I felt like a changed person from not going to work all the time. And it definitely made a shift in my life of like, okay, things need to change. I can't keep living and working like this, giving all of my energy to some freaking reptilian Beverly Hills customers, you know?
Crazy Chris, thank you for the roses. That's very sweet. Someone said, I haven't had it glitch since I've been on your live. I'm getting some comments about your connection, but I just don't, unfortunately, I don't think that there's anything we can do about it. Breeze,
I know a lot of people are saying glitch on too. So everyone says like around like certain words that it's happening, but hopefully, I mean, there's no glitches that I'm experiencing, which is also interesting. But it will be on YouTube. So if it gets if you miss it, if it gets too much, then we're gonna put it on. Someone's saying you're glitching right now, literally right now.
It's weird because I have horrible like service and connection issues, but you're so clear. So
yeah, I feel like, so if anyone, it's glitching, it's a lot, or it's annoying, it'll also all be on YouTube.
I promise I'm not trying to steal from you, but a bunch of people are saying it's really clear on my end if people want to switch to mine. I would never suggest that.
Yeah, if you guys want, switch over to the other side.
And I just want to
saying I just switched between the two.
I just want to mention real quick, there's certain words first of all, I'm bad at reading your guys' comments, but there's certain words we can't really say. It's just too sketchy still, but you know what we're talking about when we're saying March 2020 and the sickness and stuff. It is best if we don't. Wow, I really love that name. Says, you are both wonderful. I agree. Thank you.
Thanks.
Someone said Soros. Like,
oh yeah, that's one of those.
Just go
that's
already.
Especially when we're already talking about lizards. Let's not. But someone earlier, I want to go back and said it. She said, "Have you heard of the Black Bible? It is a combination of the Bible, the Quran, and the Hebrew Bible." I can't find the comment, but she said it earlier. Yeah, I am Brooke. She said it. The Black Bible. I've never heard of it. I need to look into this.
That
like
kind of the fact that like there are multiple books missing,
and the Torah. Sorry.
And so many of our religions, they're all worshiping the same thing. I mean, most religions are either worshiping the sun or Saturn. So, like, I'm not going to make a judgment call on either one of those, but I
personally think there's truth in every religion, even exactly. Scientology. Like, I think every religion has some truth to it, and it's really, trust me.
Well, Scientology has some self-help stuff in it, but
and that's true. But the other stuff is very close to what we're talking about, which is another reason that people are triggered.
I like the Scientology idea of like, if you're talented enough, you have like a army of like little guys that do everything for you and like make sure you look perfect and like get your coffees for you, and like I like that part of Scientology.
So I live very close to all three of the Scientology centers. Like literally I could walk there. And so obviously everyone that's like not really in the mix of like the actual buildings, they think that like Scientologists are all like super successful and rich.
No, they're like servants.
there's so many of them that are outside the building sweeping Hollywood Boulevard, the filthy boulevard. They're out there sweeping it. And I feel so bad for like the low level Scientologists because they're like slaves. And I feel so bad for them.
They're either people that spend all of their disposable income or just income in general on the church. And they live there. A lot of them are not able to go home. Have homes. To the couple of people that are still talking about the connection issues, I promise it's not that I was holding off. I'm just bad at reading the comments. I mentioned it as soon as I saw it, and thank you guys for bringing it up.
Yeah, they're saying we're glitching bad. It's interesting.
I know it's weird. It's weird the things that seem to be problematic. Like we were talking about my Stargate video privately, and that one, that the views on that did pretty well in comparison to some of my other videos, but it just didn't go to FYP at all. And I'm like, this is the most science fiction-y, like out there idea that I've talked about in a while. Why would it be like shadow banned or whatever?
It's very interesting. And I feel like it's based on like creator to creator, because when I talk to other people, certain topics are more censored for them. But then I was telling you too that like looking through, because you were talking about that, I was looking through the analytics of my videos. And when I look through the Mandela Effect videos, majority of the traffic is coming from the For You page. When I look at the Alien series, most of it is coming from my personal profile, which means people that are clicking on my profile and looking at it, as opposed to it randomly coming up from their following feed or from their For You page, which I thought was very interesting because one of the things that Marco Nopolo said on the live was that he gets like very suppressed on alien content. When he talks about alien or the Anunnaki or whatever, it's so censored. And
but I thought that was so obvious. I thought that was so fake. If it's fake, why can't you talk about it? It's bizarre to me.
Yeah, so many people here are saying that they have to click on my profile to watch it. And honestly, that's what the analytics show. It shows that like 50 to 60% of all my views are from people going to the page and clicking.
But you also make that kind of content where I don't know if you do it intentionally. I promise, guys, I don't know if it does it intentionally. But your videos are like, it's a crescendo and then a cliffhanger. And then the next one like picks up on the cliffhanger. And so it's like when I discovered you, I was like a couple times a day, like, okay, I wonder like gotten busy, like, come on, hurry up, get it out there. I need to be better about
part of it is because I only have 3 minutes. Yeah. And also too, you know, my long history of my work before TikTok made me some type of conspiracy queen. Before that, I was a writer, and I, you know, work in like, or not work, I mean, want to work in film and all of that. So a lot of my experience creatively is in writing films, writing TV, writing along those lines. So I do know, you know, I do know story structure. So it plays a little part.
So how do you feel being, can I say your location? Did we already say that?
Yeah. Yeah, I already told them that I could walk to the Scientology Center, so I've basically given them my address.
So how do you feel, like, having all the knowledge you have and all the theories that you have, like, how do you feel being in Hollywood? And is there like
it's a mix. Honestly, it's very intense here because a lot. And I think I don't know who I talked about this with in one of the lives. I don't think it was with you, but it was about like how all the light workers need to do like some time in LA. Not every single one of them, but a large concentration, because the energy of LA is such a dark hellmouth. When they like old school Buffy and they talked about that the school was on top of a hellmouth, that's like LA. And there's so much dark evil energy here, and there's a lot of dark magic and a lot of, you know, so many things. There's a lot of underground stuff here. Even like there's an old article from the 30s from the LA Times where people discovered these tunnels underground and lizard people lived under them. And there's two articles. Now I can only find one, but years ago, and I have to look on an old hard drive because I do screenshot like crazy. But there was another article that had a picture, a drawing of one of the beings that lived underground, and it looked so close to the Robert Monroe drawing from the Gateway process.
It's hard to like deny at this point that there is either some kind of, I don't know the like incorporeal form or physical form being that interacts with us that does have those attributes to it, because it's like everywhere. It's in all the ancient religions, and a lot of coming from underground. And I don't know. I think if I had to like make a wild guess, I think that, oh man, I read this book called The Season of Passage. It's like kind of obscure. It's like a vampires on Mars book. But
accurate.
the idea behind it was that like there used to be some sort of like bridge between Earth and Mars, and not like a physical bridge, but like a Stargate type thing. But they never say
allegedly
that.
It's in Antarctica.
Yeah, and they never say it. It's just like the valley. They call it the valley that they have to cross to come to like the paradise that is Earth, which they don't call it Earth. It's like this, you don't know what they're talking about. They keep cutting to this like ancient times, and you think it's like a fantasy book or something that someone's reading. And what it turns out to be is like it's like these horrific like reptile people that some of them, the more powerful ones, can transform and look human when they want to go talk to the humans and maybe like settle a deal, because their land is dying and there's nothing they can do about it. And so what they're obsessed with is like somehow, whether it's by force or by like, stealthily taking over the politicians or whatever, they just want to get to Earth. And it's just the kingdom in the context of the book. And then as you read along, as you get through the book, you realize it's basically like a ancient history of Earth and Mars. It's fiction, but it's really good. But the souls of the more powerful like monsters, I mean, they're like vampiric lizards basically. They never die. They stay in the heart of the planet. They stay in Mars. And it's not like
which is also why they're probably not really worried about their karma and all of that, because their lifespans are so long.
Yeah. And then what they end up having to do is they drip the water from inside of Mars, which is black goo, into that either the astronauts' water supply or like a wine bottle or something, and they like parasitically take over the astronauts and then come back to Earth. And it just seems like maybe, I mean, obviously that's fiction. It's a really good book, and but it seems like there's these ideas out there, and all of our ideas come from somewhere. And obviously there's you can tell yourself, I came up with this and it's totally original. It's not.
There's no such thing.
I've written probably 50 songs, and I've done a lot of writing where it's like, okay, I have to be in the studio in 4 days, and I'm supposed to have 7 songs, and I have 3 and then 4 that I started, and I just have to like do the work, and that's different. But then there's those times where it's like a laser beam into your head. I'm sure you've had the same.
Oh writing. Yeah,
it's complete when you have the idea. It's already there, and it's just up to you to go, okay, what are the drums doing? What is the guitar doing? Like, what's happening? And sometimes I can't even, like, I can't decode it fast enough, and then it's gone. So there's something out there projecting it. And I think a lot of our fears are like genetic memory based or something like that. Yeah.
And two, about the ideas, someone asked what's not real that I just, or what's not possible, no such thing as. I meant completely original ideas, that there's really no such thing as completely original ideas. And yeah, someone's saying flow state because basically, you know, my understanding of this, like what you're saying, is that like if you shift into a receptive place, which is like you can access your subconscious mind, or you're shifting to your right brain, you're more in like a receptive state, that's how you can receive the information. So basically, you know, according to receive the information. So basically, you know, according to Dolores and beings send information to the magnetic field of Earth, and basically these could be inventions, art, music, stories, things that need to be told, information that needs to get out. They'll send it, blast it to Earth, and who's ever in a receptive state is able to receive it in their medium that they're used to working in. So a musician, if they're in that receiving state, they're going to receive these like codes from the energetic field of the Earth. And that's why, you know, you'll have two people completely unrelated to each other who will have the same song, the same joke, the same movie idea, you know, the same everything. And then also the same thing with inventions. There'll be someone like coming up with this crazy invention, and then someone on the other side of the world coming up with the same invention. So it's because who's ever able to receive it, it's their idea. They get the credit for it, but it's actually never was their idea. These are collective ideas that are being blasted to Earth.
Yeah, and I don't know if my comment like actually shows up in the live, but people are asking. The book is called The Season of Passage, and I believe they're making a movie about it right now.
Someone's asking about the protected areas in astral projection. And also someone earlier asked, is remote viewing astral projection? And it's not. They're close. There's a astral projection teacher named Jade Shaw. She's like this really pretty red-haired girl. And she teaches astral projection. And I took the course, but I only took the first week of the course, so we didn't get to actually do it in that time. And then my membership for Mind Valley expired. So I didn't end up finishing the course. But in the beginning of the course, she goes through an explanation of the difference between all of the things. And you know what? I recorded it, so I think it's on my phone somewhere. I might like post a video about it. But from what I remember, she says that basically, like, imagine you're on your couch. Like, remote viewing is you're watching it on the TV. And then she also talks about like a shamanic journey. And she says basically the shamanic journey would be kind of like something comes from the TV and brings your consciousness with. And then she says that basically the astral projection is literally, instead of you watching it, you go to the place, your consciousness will go to the place of what's on the screen, as opposed to like, and I know it's kind of a weird explanation, but I liked her explanation of it because she kind of was like separating that, like in remote viewing, your consciousness is not really going to the location. It's like watching TV. Whereas
you're like a fly on the wall, kind of.
Yeah, but not you're more of a fly on the wall, I think, with the astral projection because you're physically going there.
But if you're astral projecting, and like say you're you know, observing a conversation, is there more, are you like more is your astral form more physically there to the point where like somebody else that's able to do that can see you? Or because I know
yes, I think so, because also when you go back to the apocalyptic prophecy series and we talk about the Nostradamus stuff in the Dolores books, Nostradamus, because he had that like awareness of being able to see spirits and entities and stuff, he saw some of them in his room. Phil was different. He wasn't able to see Phil in his room. But the other people, he was able to see them in the room and able to know that their energy was there. And that's different because they were doing it under hypnosis. It wasn't exactly astral projection. But I think people who are aware of those things, I mean, I even have a friend who's, you know, like a professional psychic or whatever, and she had something similarly was astral projecting into her apartment. And it turned out it was some weird girl who was like trying to like mimic her business, and had like almost the same type of Instagram and like tried
People
to
will
like
do anything but the work.
I know, like, come on, just do your business then. Why are you astral projecting into someone's apartment?
That's so much harder.
And then someone's asking about the restricted areas. So I don't know, you know, for sure, but in these areas that are very top secret, charged with a lot of energy, things that are like very like hot topics, I believe that there's astral policing going on too. So I don't know if it's people or if it's like entities that are working with it that are kind of blocking those areas from being seen. So you might be able to astral project into like Guantanamo Bay, but you're probably going to, you might be able, some people have done this, you know, I've seen people online claim that they've astral projected into these areas. And whether they really can or cannot, I don't know. But what I believe about that is that even if you are able to get in and see things, there's beings that are not humans experimenting. These are beings that are fully in the astral 100% of the time, that are in those areas, that are seeing you. And they're probably going to follow you back home and harass you after that. And there is psychic attacks. Psychic attacks are absolutely real.
Yeah.
Psychic attacks are absolutely real.
Yeah, and the more that you immerse that kind of lifestyle or that kind of research, or that's not even research at that point, you're actively engaged. We were talking about this last time, like the more you accept the reality and get into it more and more, like I feel like the more effect it can have over you. And I've never tried to remote view, but I tried to, like I fasted for 2 days and like did breath work and waited. Like I fasted for 2 days and like did breath work and waited until I was in like, and some shows are like you play and it's just like, okay, that was okay, and let's move on. And then some shows it's like that perfect flow state and it's just like this huge amount of energy flowing through you, and then it's like you're really exerted after, but it's like it's almost like nirvana. It just you're like totally enlightened. And I had fasted for 2 days and I was not expecting it to work at all, but I was laying, you know, on a bench seat in a van, and it was raining really hard, and I think that really helped me because you know, you have to be like present. And just, I mean, almost instantaneously as soon as I started drifting and I was just listening to the rain pattering, I was immediately probably 15 feet above the van, moving at the exact like rate of speed. And
wow.
I immediately went, you know, and it like and at the time I was like, oh, I probably just I was
imagining. You try to like justify it.
Yeah, I fell asleep, and that's what my brain turned it into, like what I was trying to do. But it was so clear and so vivid, and that's what I was trying to do. But yeah, I think that there's something to that. I'm
And someone's asking, and I do want to answer it. They're asking about, can you put protection over your home for people astral traveling or remote viewing or anything? And the best method for anything like that, always visualization is like more powerful. You can speak things into existence, but when you visualize them, you're literally already creating them. So the best thing that you can do for your body, for your home, is to visualize it being covered in white light. So you imagine basically either yourself, the way Dolores teaches it is like you visualize in your mind a pyramid being placed over a pyramid of white, sparkling golden light, like God energy, whatever you believe, you know, or an angel type of white light over your head, and then have it completely encapsulate your body to protect you energetically. You could put it over your car before you drive and just completely encapsulate your car in the white light. And you can put that over your house. And some people with their house, they do more of a bubble shape.
So do they just like meditate on that or visualize like for a portion of the day, or are they just
so
walking
you would
around?
just, I mean, it's suggested to do it daily if you're someone who's experiencing stuff, or you have fear about it, or you feel like something, like you might have like a psychic attack situation, then it's definitely, you want to do it daily. But I think to do it kind of regularly here and there as you need is enough. You know, unless you're kind of like engaging in something that would be kind of drawing that energy toward you, it's not like you need to do it all the time. But it's good to do that with, and someone says, yeah, create a relationship with the light. Exactly. I mean, I love the white light. The white light is like my
That really speaks to the whole idea of like kind of speaking our reality into existence, because I've been in a very negative place for the past couple weeks, and it's just life stuff, you know. And like I said, it's just like I'm already like up here. My life has changed so much for the better in the last couple months. But it's like those things are still kind of holding you back, and it's like the last gasp of this like negativity that you've been living in for so long. And it's like I've had multiple periods of time in the last few months where I'll just like enter this place in my head, and it's like all of a sudden I'm totally fine, and I'm like I'm happy, and it's happy isn't the word, it's just ready, prepared, like it's like I'm gliding through the day, and I'm hitting every target, and everything's going well. And then when you're in that zone, you're kind of like unknowingly feeding it more positivity. And my mistake is that I didn't like log mentally the things I was doing to like create that space for myself. And then I'm so bad about this. The second that I get into a tough situation, like we were talking about earlier, I immediately start going, oh, why? Still? Why is this happening? I thought I took care of that, you know? And then I'm not going to get super specific, but I say like horrible things about myself in my head. And like I go to
and
such
those
a
are
dark
like
place.
pathways in your brain that have
Yeah,
just
they
been
are
paved.
deep.
So it's just easy to drive down that path that has already been paved. That's a lot like what Marissa Peer and Joe Dispenza talk about. But Marissa Peer, I totally suggest you guys check her out. You too. I mean, her stuff is great because it's really about like reprogramming those pathways by paving new ones.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
And she's a little, I love Joe Dispenza. She's a little bit more simple than Joe Dispenza. You know, so like Joe Dispenza is great. He's very advanced in the information he's giving. And even if like you're not fully getting it, just listening to it, it's going in.
yeah.
But Marissa Peer is a lot more like a simpler, gentler version of creating those like new pathways. And it's really as simple as like, you know, putting a little picture frame and writing a couple of affirmations and putting it, you know, next to your sink in the bathroom. And every time you brush your teeth, you look at it and say it every day. And that's it. You've already created that pathway, and every day it gets paved more and more.
Yeah. This just reminded me, Breeza says it's like the next level that needs to be entered. And the last little thing that I listened to right before we went live, I'll mention him in the next live or something. I just saw a TikTok from somebody talking about this very thing, and he was calling it like the pain body or something. It's the first time I've ever heard the idea, but it really like worked for me. And it was like, when you are about to reach the next level and you are working towards something, and you're probably already there, but you're still dealing with old trauma or just old negativity and stuff, it will like utterly and completely increase and try to keep you right where you are the whole time. And it just resonated with me so perfectly, because that's been my problem. It's like, I'm not, even though I'm trying to at first I wasn't trying to rise the occasion. I was just going like, this isn't going to work out. And then it just kept working out. And so it's like, okay, this is going to work out. I should probably rise to the occasion. I'm going to start being, more positive and healthy and speaking good things. But then once you start doing that, I think he referred to it as the pain body or something like that. It's like all these things will start occurring to keep you right where you are. Like relatives will start calling you incessantly, guilting you about not, giving you some kind of negative emotion, even if you have a good relationship with them. Or like an old flame will reach out and be like, hey, wouldn't it just be nice if we went out?
Hey,
Or
I'm
like,
ready to bring all this toxic shit back into your life. How about
I
that?
want closure or something. And what you have to
like
do.
they want to have a conversation, and a conversation that would literally
Wreck.
yeah. There's like a purging process, but also one of the other things that I like to interpret those things as is the universe gives you an opportunity to prove to yourself that you've changed. So sometimes it will bring back a pattern of something that has caused a lot of guilt, trauma, pain, self doubt, whatever it is, has caused that in your life. I have this problem with like some like interpersonal stuff, and literally I'll like think it's done, and then this one type of specific issue will come up again, and I'm like, oh my God, I did all of the work on this. I've done so much meditation. I've done clearings. I've done work. I've journaled. I've manifested. I've done it all. Why did this happen again? And it's the universe giving you the opportunity to prove to yourself that you're not the same person anymore, that you've grown, that you've changed. So sometimes when those like bad things happen again, we kind of feel like we're getting punished, but we're
Yeah.
actually being given an opportunity to show ourselves that we're not that same person anymore.
Real quick, Mind Hacking Happiness just commented, and he has been on his own somewhat journey through remote viewing. So I would highly recommend Mind Hacking Happiness. That's another
Oh, that's an awesome
TikTok
name. I
that
have to
was,
check it out. I have to follow him.
yeah, very similar to like how I felt about you before I started a TikTok. I saw a couple of his TikToks, and it was almost one of those things where you're like scrolling on your phone, and then I saw one of his TikToks, and I was like, you kind of sit up straight, like, I should have a good day today. Like maybe I should do something. But
and I love it. And that's like what, like, I mean, for me, I do like to always try to bring it back to the upliftment of it all. As much as I like to get, down and dirty with the scary conspiracies, because horror movies suck. They're not written well. And the greatest horror movie is potentially happening in the fourth dimension all around us. So, of course, your adrenaline and everything wants to play into those ideas. But if you don't like go back to like the real purpose is to raise your consciousness, to ascend, to be a better person, to help other people. If you don't go back to that, that's how like, a lot of the conspiracy people do get too off the rails because they're not checking back with like what matters, which is, yeah, all this horrible shit's happening, but you're here to change it as opposed to feed into it.
That's been a huge change that I've noticed in myself. I'm sure a lot of other people have experienced this. If you are feeling that emotion when you're like looking into something that interests you and you're getting really worried or scared, that's how I used to feel a lot of the times when I look at conspiracy content. Like take a break, but also, and like be aware if something is just really negative to you, but it's probably telling you something. Like you might need to work on something. And when you start looking at it through a lens of like, is this detrimental to my mental health or whatever? Like, I don't put a lot of
It's raining
thought.
coins over here. Thanks, guys.
I think I think you might need to take a break, but it's just information. And take a break if you need a break, but it's just information. And I don't know. I'm so I guess I just have this feeling like everything is a show. Everything just seems like we're on a ride, and that doesn't mean you can't. You need to interact. You need to do what you can, but so much conspiracy content is wrapped around like how much of a show is it? And it's like it just is. You don't really need to worry about it like that.
And the thing that, and I mean, you know, I'm a hardcore conspiracy theorist for a long time, but the one thing with the conspiracy stuff that I don't agree with is this constant element of it that like the dark is winning.
It's not. It's
I don't
obviously
care how many thousands of years it takes. The dark never wins.
It's
because
so
dark
obvious.
is only a tiny fraction of what light or God or source or the universe is. So it's a portion of it. But at the end of the day, even the dark comes from God too. So it's like, I mean, the dark never really like it always makes it seem like, oh, they're so powerful, they're gonna win, they've been doing this, and yeah, they've been doing it for a long time, but you know,
no, that's
2,000 years is not that long.
That's the only reason why they have power, is because it took this long for them to build it up. Because if you just let it be, the the light works out. The light is just going to be like, no, you're done. Sit down, go away, go to your little hell region or whatever. But it's, and I don't think this is the first time. I think we're all in a big cycle. I was going to say earlier, I don't have a problem with being in a cycle with light and dark. That's fine. I think it's healthy as a society, as a species, Gaia, like Earth needs. It's all cyclical. But I have a problem with this idea that like it's so obvious they're trying to interrupt that cycle and keep it going in this like last stage where it seems like they're winning and it seems like they're gonna subjugate all mankind and the earth, and they've already lost, but their game now is extending the end game as long as they possibly can. And if the dark
and just getting as many people as they can to kind of get sucked into the darkness, because they don't care. They'll feed on those
winning,
smaller
they
groups.
wouldn't need to turn people against each other. They would never need to do that if they were more powerful. They would never need to like try to get people twisted up on race or religion or any of that stuff. They wouldn't need to do that. They would just control. There's certain things that we're all afraid of, the powers that be, the darkness. There's certain things we're all afraid of them doing. And I'm not saying bad things aren't going to continue to happen, but if they could do these certain things, they would have. There are certain things we fear because we know that on a certain level it is possible, but they can't do it. They would have done it.
So someone's asking, what would be the dark? So I personally feel everything is a part of this ascension process. So like, you come here, you choose this life, you're learning these lessons of darkness or whatever, you know, you're learning these lessons of like trauma, bad parents, you know, all the type of things that we're here sorting through, that we are healing karma from. Now the dark, a lot of times they're there to teach lessons, you know, they're like dark teachers. So at the same time, it's like we kind of look at it as like we're the opposite and there's a battle, but we also, if you kind of come to a little bit more peace with the dark, which I know is hard because then you get spindled back into this narrative, but when you can pull back and you're like, you know, the dark is something to be grateful for, because how do we ascend? How do we truly learn these lessons in such a fast time frame? You know, people live less than 100 years. So it's like, in less than 100 years, you get to learn all of these lessons and work on all of this karma, and you get to go back to your soul family and your soul group, and everyone gets to review these amazing lessons that you've learned. So it's like the dark, you know, are they evil, or is it like that's part of the process and they're choosing to take that side, which is also, you know, not what I would choose, but it doesn't mean that it's not an important part of, you know, the whole process. So I feel like, you know, there's not so much like light versus dark. That's what we're trying to overcome, and to realize that they're part of, you know, the lessons that we're learning. You know, that's how, I mean, I had to come to terms with the whole reptilian thing when because it did scare the shit out of me. Like, freaking scared me, shook to my core. And
do you feel like you are awake, or do you feel like you were kind of like sleepwalking before certain things happened, like before that happened, or
I mean, certain, not really, because like I said, there was a lot of like dark magic that I was around when I was younger. My grandma used to do like hexes on people, and there was always like, you know, I I don't know if I talked about it with you. I talked about it definitely on my YouTube. Is that we had this jar of cow's blood with my dad's sock in it, because my mom got convinced to do a curse on my dad, and then she got really scared, so she never finished the curse, which you had to smash the jar. So instead, she kept the jar in the closet for 18 years. So we lived with the cursed cow blood jar. And that happened when I was like 1 year old. So that jar, first of all, that jar had the worst energy. It was horrifying.
Well, yeah.
The energy, even opening that closet, which my mom just put like her fur coats in and stuff from the 80s. And then like we just like shoved a bunch of books in front of it, and that was it. Like we tried to never go in that closet. Even when we did clean out the closet eventually, no one would touch the jar. So it just got knocked down with the house. So
that might be
I've
the
always been, and so I've never really doubted whether shit is real, because it is, in my experience, it is. So I was never really like not aware of like this mystical side of the world that's happening simultaneously. And the same thing, you know, my family had all like an alien experience when I was younger, so I was aware of those things.
And
However,
what was your experience?
I also talk about it on my YouTube in detail, but it was basically a UFO, but it came down and it landed. And then after that, and go watch the full story. I'm not going to get into it because it takes such a long time to tell this whole story because there's so many little details. But basically, you know, we were sitting when it happened, and then when it landed, we were standing in a line. So there was definitely, and I mean, when I was younger, I just like kind of was like, oh shit, we all jumped up. But then as I got older, as I did hypnosis, as I've asked the Akashic records, I've gotten a lot more information about the situation, which was that I went on the ship. And even that, under hypnosis, they wouldn't even give me the answers. They said it wasn't time to know what that was about. So I was never fully asleep. That never really was a thing. That was part of the information I got in my hypnosis, though, was that the purpose of that alien experience was because I was meant to validate other people. So I needed to know without a doubt at a young age that this is no doubt that someone like, and that's also why I never really believed in, obviously I'm not saying experts in general, but a lot of experts, a lot of things that we learned in science and stuff that we learned, I didn't believe it because I've already seen things outside of that realm. So I was like, and plus my family's like, we were creepy, you know, like on Thanksgiving, we would tell ghost stories. Like literally, we were just creepy people who liked creepy things. So I definitely had my earlier stages of life very intertwined with dark energy. And even too, I've kind of learned that like there'll be people who like I'll be friends with that I could totally have like a conversation. We'll talk about cool stuff. One of my mutual friends will know them and they'll be like, that person has the darkest, scariest energy. And I'm like, huh, I didn't get that from them, but okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like I have a different contract with the dark than some other people do who are different types of light workers or whatever, so I feel like it's always kind of been intertwined
Like you're allowed
throughout
to
my
kind
life.
of just be an observer sometimes.
To be an observer of
Yeah.
the darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you see, what are they going to do?
I've grown to be this nice person. I've grown
You embraced
into this
it before.
Yeah, but I was not when I was younger. I mean, when I was younger, I definitely was not like, I was like a very like aggressive, bold person. So I'm like, you're weak, get out of the way then. And like I've learned to be more compassionate, but I was not very and I think it's normal for like teenagers and stuff to not be that compassionate. Now they are. But,
Real quick, I'm going to need a collab between you and Mind Hacking Happiness. He commented, I love her. So I think you guys would.
I want to. I know. I'm going to follow him right after this.
Okay. Also, when I say, did you ever feel like you were sleepwalking? I just feel like I had this tremendous, like, perspective dump, like 3.5, 4 years ago. And it's almost like I know I was awake. I know I was questioning things. I was very like emotional as a child, like not just in the way that like I felt everything very deeply. I had really weird paranormal experiences when I was a little boy. And at a certain point, yes, we're both millennials. At a certain point, I literally, this is so scary, but I literally had the thought, oh, that's what perspective is. It was like I was seeing myself through someone else's eyes for the first time. Like main character syndrome really bad or something, because I was like, oh, okay. And then I started thinking ever since then, and it's not like I have to try. I just am constantly seeing myself in different situations. Like, why are people acting the way they're acting? And it makes me feel like I was asleep before, because there's certain behaviors and things I was doing, like that it just.
And I think that's normal, which is like getting really washed away in this current conversation. Everyone's acting freaking holier than thou and the virtue signaling and the bullshit. And it's like anyone who's going to act like they never did anything that hurt someone's feelings, that might have been mean, that might have been insensitive or not compassionate, or that they would have only focused on themselves. Anyone who's acting like that and this whole cancel culture bullshit is like, that's them projecting that they don't want to work on themselves, because anyone who's done work on themselves are exactly what you're saying is like, did I have main character syndrome? Was I just not aware of how other people felt about things? And it's like, that's normal. It's normal to go through that process, not to just be perfect. And then anyone who's not, you literally want to crucify, fucking hang them, chop off their head in the fucking guillotine. Like, does that seem woke?
You'll never. People are afraid.
And guys, yes, I'm a Leo with a Scorpio rising. They're trying to guess my sign here. I'm a Leo with a Scorpio rising and a Libra moon.
And I'm an Aries, and that's all I know. I don't know any of the other things. But I think it's really hard for people to look within themselves. I think some people don't have that ability. I think there's something to this. Like, I don't want to sound detrimental to other people in any way. If you're questioning your reality and how you're affecting other people, you're definitely not an NPC. But I think there's something to that. I'm not going to get into it, but once you, I don't know. I feel like it's scary to look at that. You're scared that you're going to find something you don't like and that you won't be perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody is. The best I've ever felt, the most on point, where I'm like, wow, I'm really treating people well and life is going good for me. 35 minutes later, I'm kind of in a weird funk all of a sudden. It's like, you're never perfect. The best you can do is just kind of keep an open mind, be realistic about your expectations, and be realistic about how you're impacting other people. But I think it's really important to, I don't know, I felt really weird and like small. I felt like an emotional midget when I had that kind of perspective dump. But then when I tried to explain it to like my roommates at the time, it was like, that was the response I got. So I was,
You know, and that's like, I think too, you know, I think that's a little bit of a gap in the generation, you know, and I love the younger generation. I really do. I love Gen Z. I think they're great. Um, there's a big gap though, because they don't remember the world the way it was, because it wasn't that way when they were born. So there's a lot of stuff that, like, millennials, you know, we were kind of the last that were, you know, the old world and the new world, and we saw that change happen so quickly. Like, we didn't even have a chance to catch up, because you're still a kid and then a teenager and then a young adult, so you don't even have time to process like what we saw happen and change. But it's like, you know, the younger generation, they didn't really have like this like idea of what the world was before. So it's like, it's easy for them to fall into this trap of like the virtue signaling and that, because it's like, you know, they didn't really have the same type of, like, I mean, even like, look at like the world that we watched on TV. It was like,
imagine, okay, we perceived, and I say we as like the royal we, I'm not speaking for you, but I think I was in like 5th grade when 9/11 happened, and we perceived the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan as a somewhat heavy-handed but response to, we've been attacked and it's gonna happen again and we have to protect ourselves. Imagine
mm-hmm.
being born, and then the entire time you're growing up, we're just the imperial, we're all over the world, and everybody grows up knowing somebody that's been to Iraq or been to Afghanistan. And we were there for over 20 years. So like that right there, that's one thing, but it's huge. The difference between, you know, being a preteen or in elementary or middle school when 9/11 happened and seeing the response to that. Now we elementary or middle school when 9/11 happened and seeing the response to that. Now we all know that's another rabbit hole entirely, but we all know that we were over there for many different reasons. But imagine growing up just, oh, we're the people that invade and then stay and control, like we're the imperials. There's just so many changes. I mean, we grew up with no cell phone and a house phone, and then a little, you know, you're gonna get kidnapped, take this brick phone with you. And then we had flip phones, and then you know, if you were really lucky, you got a razor. And now it's like everybody, it's like the debate is how young is too young for an iPad. So it's a,
Oh yeah, I mean, people give their kids now like 7 years old an iPhone, and obviously, you know, I didn't get my first phone until I was 18,
yeah.
and my friend stole someone's phone and gave it to me. So I didn't get my first phone until I was an adult. And um but I mean, it's also like, how could a kid not have that technology? So it's like, you know, and the
You'd be
same
a
thing
little
too with the
weirdo.
social media. Like, there's this debate of whether kids should be allowed on social media, and it's like, it's hard to say. Like, I get that it could be detrimental in ways, but at the same time, you can't shield them from the world.
No, you can't. I mean, it's how, if you, I understand the idea of keeping that technology away from younger children, but if you do it to too much of an extent, you're gonna like damage them. They're gonna be crippled technologically. And in certain aspects, I wish that wasn't such a part of daily life. But like, we don't know. They may not be as addicted to screen time as we are when
They're
they're our age.
probably just as bad. They're probably, I think
But it
everyone
might
is
change over
just as
time.
bad.
In another decade, it might be different. It might be a different thing. We're looking at it through our lens.
Mm-hmm.
But I in our last live, I said, because I had been getting so many like authoritarian comments, like The one thing I'll block, guys, is if anyone uses the word misinformation, you're gone immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know what that means. That means I'm going to try to like control the dialogue here. I'm going to try to get rid of you. That's what that word means
And what
now.
they're doing is they're using their fear to try to spread it to other people. They're trying to get other people scared. They're trying to get people to say, oh, this is dangerous, so that then it could be silenced. And that's Agent Smith right there.
Yeah, which is why you just gotta. And a lot of the times they're
See, but I block
following
so
me.
much easier. Like, I block so much easier. Like, oh man,
Yeah.
the littlest thing, I'm like, you know what? You don't kill the
Yeah.
vibe. Because,
Sometimes.
I want people to be able to like comment their experiences, because
Yeah.
there's like so many, like in my comments, a lot of people will be like, oh, I had a being come into my room. I've never told anyone this. I met an alien once and I've been afraid to tell people. I would rather have people commenting those things than like, oh, well, where's the proof? Has anyone ever seen one? And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you want proof of the fourth dimension in the third dimension.
And you're
Why
and
am
you're
I going to
you're
waste my time? Just get
you're,
blocked.
you're asking for more, but at the same, it's like they low key want to know more, but the only way they know how to interact
But do they
is like
want to know more, or do they want to enforce a social construct that
that
they've
one.
been programmed into? That's why I
That one.
love this Agent Smith thing, because it's like they're literally just trying to protect the Matrix and to protect the indoctrination and to protect the false reality. But it's like, dude, go do that elsewhere. And I know, like,
So
a lot of creators that I know, like, they tend to not block, but I tell them, I'm like, block. It's glorious. Block.
So Andrew Caps says, got to be careful with that though. That's how echo chambers start. And not saying you can't block people, just be sure. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this. Just be sure not to silence other valid questions. So here's the thing about that. Um, there. It's totally fine to ask questions. It's even totally fine to disagree with me, but I can't let people attack even lightly rib on people that are following me because they really enjoy my content and they want to watch it. And the reason I can't let that happen, A, because I just can't, it's not in me, but B, it's a release for people. When I watch content, it's because I need a second real quick. I need to decompress. I need something interesting. I need to be entertained. I don't come somewhere to be entertained. To like, I can't imagine if I went to a movie theater and I was like in the middle of enjoying the movie and the person next to me was like, "You're an idiot. That's not real.
Right?
You think someone can be Spider-Man? Come on, multiple dimension." It's like I'm just trying to watch the movie, and I know some of the things I talk about. I'm like, I think this is happening, but some of it, I'm like, this is entertaining to me. Let's talk about it. So when somebody starts attacking somebody, another follower, they're probably
Mhm.
gone. And then the other thing is
Exactly, because that's the
creators.
thing. If you let them, and this is what I've noticed, is if you let them, and I mean, there's obviously a lot of it that's allowed. If they're not being nasty or disrespectful or condescending, then they do, But sometimes I'm like, he's just talking about the Bible. Like, that's his beliefs.
Yeah.
He's allowed to have it.
Hmm.
He's being a little condescending, but okay. But then they keep going down the list and they keep responding and responding and responding to different people because they're looking for something. And then I'm like, you know what? I should have blocked you with your first comment, because
Yeah.
now you're harassing 10 different people because you're here to get some type of weird thrill, to troll for Jesus. I don't know what you're trying to get out of it.
I
You're
have a
trying to
lot of
get on like the Lord's good side by being a dick. How's that going to work?
I have a lot of like jester in me, and so when people are like, Andrew Caps, I'm still kind of replying to you. When people are like really rude or like oh whatever, do some research or something like that. I try to be a little bit of a jester. I try to like poke fun a little bit. Hey, we're having a good time, and it's usually based on the reaction to that. like 90% of the time they're like, oh, ha ha ha, I really like your videos. And so I'm like, okay.
Always.
Yeah,
When you tell them, like, are we allowed to, like, in this I posted about that, like, family that has a, like, maybe has a ghost in their house or whatever is going on in those videos. Someone like left a nasty comment and I'm like, geez, man, can we just have some fun?
no.
Like, and then he was like, oh no, I was just worried about you. I don't want you to, I don't want anything to happen to you. You're worried about me. That's why.
Just
That's
keeping you
why
on your
you're
toes.
sick.
Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, I try to just let people disagree if they want to disagree, because that might be their
You know
release.
what? Have
But
a conversation, but why is it like they have trouble asking questions that are conversation inducing? They
yeah,
want to, they don't answer. If they ask a question, it's the most condescending rhetorical question, you know? And it's like, why be condescending?
San Badar says, how's it from South Africa? Hello.
Hi. You know, I feel like I get a lot of people from South Africa on my page, and I don't think it's just because of the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
But I
Someone
feel
said,
like South Africa is woke as hell because constantly people from South Africa are commenting or DMing me on Instagram, and I'm like, you guys know what's up over there. I want to go.
it's best if we don't said, the world literally seems split in two realities. I totally agree. And just a couple years ago, it seemed like that was highly political and very specific.
Yeah.
Now it seems more like there are those that are maybe not necessarily at peace, but they're just kind of like themselves, and they are okay with being open-minded, and they're okay with other people enjoying their life. And then there are those that have this Agent Smith disorder where they will see something that isn't okay. So many things that we're told, and that's in the books, and that's science and all this stuff, it's bullshit. It just is. It's someone came up with an idea and they had some pull, and then they went to go prove the experiment and they couldn't prove the experiment. So another scientist came up with another experiment to explain why the experiment didn't work. And now we have two theories that we have to live our lives by that were never proven true, but it happened like 80 years ago. So that's Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, you can put that.
And what they don't realize is that most of these concepts are also theories.
Yeah. But
Like,
they're not new. They're not new. It's just it's not accepted. So you have the people that they see some content like ours, and they might not be interested. So you know what they do? They go like this, and they swipe to the
I
next thing.
know. Like, trust
Or
me, I see so many things on TikTok that I don't like.
yeah.
I see and you know what I do? I block a lot of those creators. I'll block them too. They don't even need to say nothing to me. People like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, what's her name? Aunt Karen or something. I blocked her my first day on TikTok. I was like, you know what? This is not the type of energy that I'm here to be about.
There is a lane on TikTok that's like really smarmy guys that they don't have enough like creative energy to like really do anything. And so what they do is they take like really simple scientific facts, and then they go look for videos like ours, and they're like, this is why you're wrong, stupid. Did you go to school? And like most of it's just name calling, but they like
Exactly.
they have like shaggy hair and glasses, so and like a bad thin beard, so it's okay for them to like be extremely rude. So as soon as I realized
Why
that
do
was
they always have a beard? And you know what? I think a beard of facial hair is nice.
so do I,
But
but I
I'm
can't grow a thick one.
rethinking it.
But
I'm rethinking it after the amount of comments of bearded people.
yeah,
Like, I don't understand what's going on.
I legitimately thought you were about to like tell me some super spicy theory about why people grow
Beards?
beard.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, the whole god beard thing most likely came from ancient Sumer because you look at the old Anunnaki things and they all have beards, the Anunnaki statues and tablets and stuff. So then Zeus had a beard, Jesus has a beard, people draw God with a beard, Merlin has a beard. So it's like this, and I mean, I know too, it wasn't like people were shaving back then. So probably everyone had a beard. If you didn't have a beard back then, something might have been wrong.
So just real quick, what is that fabulous shirt you're wearing, and where can I get one?
By the way, my Mandela Effect Never Smiling shirt with the 2 timelines of the Mona Lisa by JK Ultra Programming. Get yours in the link.
Andrew, I kind of agree that hair is power, beards are extra power. Like,
I know someone said here too that hair is antennas.
I don't want anyone disagreeing with me because I know how like handsome I am and stuff, but like I have never had long hair in my life, and I have like the worst long, like for me, long hair right now. And every week I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I can't keep wearing a beanie. I have to get it cut. I got to do something about this. And then every time it's time, I'm like, it just something feels like almost kind of sacred about it, you know? And I've had a beard before too, and it was really, really, I actually like teared up a little bit when I shaved it. It was one of those things where I'm like, I'm tired of this. And I did like 2 clippers, and immediately like my heart sank. I was so sad. So I agree. I agree that hair is, I mean, it's beautiful if you can grow it out. And it looks good.
Someone on my said that the Leo is rubbing off on you. It's cute. My Leo energy is rubbing off.
Maybe I'm like a energy sponge. Someone said the Baron. Okay, we're in the Mandela effect now because you.
I mean, we might as well.
Had to start talking about it.
I've got
the
my Mandela gear on.
Most recent is in the show Peacemaker. What's that one? I don't know about that. Hair definitely holds energy, and you have masculine and feminine energy in this universe. That's why people cut their hair if they go through something traumatic.
Okay, so there's a new Mandela effect that I was unaware of that I've been seeing in the comments of my Mandela effect stuff, that also someone asked me on one of the lives and I didn't know what they were talking about, and I kept seeing it since then. Okay, so people say, allegedly, I haven't looked into this one, that smoking ads, cigarette ads on TV were outlawed by Nixon, and that they haven't been on TV since Nixon. And I'm like, well, that's not true, because what about Joe the Camel? He was smooth. I remember the whole thing. I remember Joe the Camel and how smooth he was.
But was
the Camel cigarettes? It was on TV because I remember he was at a dinner party.
I think, oh my God.
And the Marlboro Man. Now, the Marlboro Man, I can't say 100% that I remember it being on the screen. Marlboro Man, I for sure remember being on things and in magazines and stuff like that. But
someone's saying they were never
definitely outlawed. Remember Joe Camel. And Salem, yeah.
Did you look it up?
The Newport commercials. Remember the Newport commercials? They were just like cheesy. They were just like, they weren't very like, you know.
I can't say I ever remember seeing a single cigarette ad.
Oh my God.
Isn't that weird? I think we've kind of been like right on the same page with every effect so far. You know what I remember? I remember a ton of Blue, the electronic cigarettes. I remember a ton of ads for that.
I don't remember that. I don't know though. Like, I mean, I didn't have a TV for a really long time. I didn't have a TV from like 2006 to like 2018.
This is really divisive. A lot of people say they were never outlawed. A lot of people say they've never seen it.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it. People are asking, what year were we born? I was born in 88.
91.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying just in print. Some are saying they remember the commercials.
So that's what I was going to say.
Some are saying only on cable TV.
I was going to say maybe you're remembering them off the posters, because I remember you used to see posters for Joe Cool everywhere, like in the grocery store.
Okay, Flowers for Wonder Girl came with the facts here, and she said the last televised cigarette ad ran at 11:50 p.m. during the Johnny Carson show on January 1st, 1971.
Wow.
So what happened to Joe Camel?
First of all, thanks for coming through with the Google search. I was about to ask somebody. So you're wrong. There's never been ads. So.
Well, you know what? A lot of people over here are saying, what? No, that's not possible.
I know.
And someone's saying she was born in 1974, and it definitely was.
Like there were ads?
That there were ads, which she was born after that was outlawed.
I mean...
Exactly. Joe Camel.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing... Okay, there is so much money in tobacco. I really have a hard time believing that they would take that L. Like...
Right?
That's... Because they would just throw...
ads didn't count. But I remember Joe Camel being at a black tie event, dinner party, and he was like with some like sexy woman, and he was so smooth, and he was the coolest guy at the party.
And now that I'm thinking... Can you please explain the severity of the Nelson Mandela effect for you guys? So for me, there's some that I just don't really resonate with. It doesn't really matter to me because I'm not personally connected to whatever that item or object is. But then there's been some where I just feel like with this one, I just feel like I really am sure about the fact that I don't remember seeing anything for that. Like the Berenstain Bears is like, I had those books. I had a lot of those books, and it was, I mean, it wasn't something you think about, but then when someone says Berenstain, you're just like, well, that's not it. That's not a name. That's ridiculous. Like, no one's name ends with Stain. I mean, I'm sure there's someone, but like,
well, apparently the creators of it do now.
What do you mean?
The people who created the Berenstain Bears, that's their name. It's like Jan and something Berenstain.
What? That's ridiculous. That's so weird. Their name is Berenstain. I feel like this Mandela effect is doubled down.
Yes.
And our name is Berenstain. I thought it was
exactly. It doubled down.
Why would their name be Berenstain? It's Berenstain because they're bears. Berenstain. It's Berenstain because they're bears. One really gets me. It's
mirror. I have heard some people explain that. I don't know 100% if I could say, because I was not like a Disney fanatic. I obviously saw it was Sleeping Beauty, right? Like I saw it. I was not a big Disney person when I was a kid, so I can't say. I do remember it being Mirror Mirror, but what I've heard as one explanation is that in the books it was Mirror Mirror in like the original fairy tales, and then Disney did Magic Mirror. But that doesn't even sound right, and nobody read those books.
It doesn't flow. And also in Shrek they say Mirror Mirror, and so it could be one of those things where it's like, I mean, I definitely saw Shrek way more than I saw Sleeping Beauty, so maybe that's why I think it is what it is. But I think the most damning one is the Luke Skywalker Darth Vader scene where he says, everybody for my whole life says, Luke, I'm your father. And I remember learning Luke, yo soy tu papa, like as a kid. And like, it was so like, that's what it was forever. And that one got me good.
Okay. So Bree Lee Collins is saying the Cheshire Cat doesn't say we're all mad here.
Well, who says it then? Because someone says it. And it's him when he's disappearing. He says it when he's like floating off, doesn't he?
I'm shocked. Honestly, these are the things, is that like, yeah, The Cheshire Cat definitely said that.
You know who I don't hear from? I never hear from people that are like, I have Shazam on VHS at my parents' house.
Oh, because it's done. It's a different timeline. There will not be any trace of it, but there is some residue sometimes.
Well, no, every time I've seen a comment like that, I said, okay, go get it. Go find it. You have it. Like, go find it. And it's like, oh.
I know. The people say they have it, like, would be internet celebrities if they would just provide it. So, yeah, see, this one hits home, too. So, Ed McMahon didn't do the publishing clearinghouse. I know for a fact he did because my mom, it actually caused trauma for me how much my mom truly thought Publishing Clearinghouse was coming to our house. And I'm like, Ma, they don't come to poor people's houses. Have they ever come to a poor person's house? And I would literally, it caused me so much trauma that I would fight with my mom about it because she would order from Finger Hut thinking it was increasing her chances of Ed McMahon coming to the house with a check. So it's that one personally upsets me because
he was the guy, like, he was the guy that would like knock on the door and be holding the check.
Yeah, during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Every year during the Super Bowl. Yeah, come on. He would come to the door.
The Haggard Yenta, I hope that's not a bad word, said Ed McMahon did American Publisher Sweepstakes, not PCH, but I think that's not really. So
what they're saying is that it got mixed up. There's two people with big checks. So who came to the door with Publishing Clearinghouse?
I think it was Stedman, Oprah's longtime boyfriend. He had to have done something before that.
I didn't even know Oprah had a boyfriend.
You don't know about Stedman?
I thought Oprah was closeted, and then
I think she's probably asexual, like Godzilla.
That's not what I hear. It's not what I hear.
But well, I bet we can't. I bet we can't say what you hear.
We can't talk about that.
Oprah's Horcrux. Oh my God. It's kind of sad because I grew up, like, I'd come home from elementary school and my mom would watch Oprah and I'd sit there like, and I wouldn't want to
watch General Hospital too if you came home early enough.
No, that wasn't her thing, but I wouldn't want to be like in the same building as Oprah now after like what I know about her. She's a scary. Oprah and Gail, that's what you're gonna say.
That's who I thought she was with the whole time.
Thanks, Scott's busy. Oprah has other interests. Yes, she does. Yes, General Hospital. Does. Remember when the pandy was going full force and there was a lot of weirdness about celebrities and Oprah
when everyone got that mass text message, if you had any type of conspiracy friend in your life, that mass
it was like
text
this long
that went out about all of these people, Oprah addressed it. Did you see that she made a video about it, that it wasn't true?
Okay, Spooky O says, wait, what do you know about Oprah? I need to know. I'm gonna tread lightly here. So it's
the same conspiracy that comes down to it all. Like,
the most interesting thing about Oprah, like that made me kind of believe. Okay, so Google Oprah, John of God. That'll tell you some stuff. Google.
Yeah. Why are they all 1 degree of separation away from John of God?
Google Oprah Harvey Weinstein picture. Google. Well, when there was.
I think that covers it.
Well,
they gotta know.
There's a moment in the pandy where all these celebrities made very weird moves, like within like a month of each other, and Oprah's was, I'm canceling all appearances for the next 2 years and will be staying at my compound. And I don't think that has changed since. Mm-hmm. Like, when's the last time you heard from Oprah?
Well, she was doing pandemic dinner parties, so she wasn't that quarantined. She had a bunch of teenage girls that fucking flew there for her parties that she was posting online.
Wow. Someone said, where'd that go?
Someone said she helps a lot of children's charities. I'm sure she does.
Yeah. So when you see something like that, it's the opposite sometimes. She helps a lot of children's charities. Well, I mean, everything is a rabbit hole. Charities themselves are a rabbit hole. A lot of them are like trafficking operations. Someone said she's farming. Yeah, she's farming something. Someone says it was Cap. I mean,
well, I mean, definitely what happened in that text message was not what really happened, but
well, okay, if that's
that was kind of the it spread around throughout the pandemic. I had several people text me that.
Yeah, I remember that one of the main names in that text was Hanks, which that guy, I grew up loving him, obviously, but like the whole situation around him getting the virus and stuff, it was very strange where he was. Did you see all the stuff about the ship that he was on and stuff when he was posting videos? Yeah, so like he posted this video from New Zealand, or yeah, I think they were in New Zealand because I think he was shooting a movie when he got it. And he okay, thanks, Dustin. He posted this like little clip of him like, oh, we're getting better, blah blah blah, and then you know, anything you post on the internet, people are going to be able to track down like exactly where you are in the world. And there was a little like steel jacket like tag that you could scan, like a barcode on it on a little steel plate. And someone was like someone like blew up the image and they scanned what it was. And first the reason people were looking into it, they were like, that's a Navy ship. There's no way that's not a Navy ship. I've spent years on a Navy ship. He's on a Navy ship. Why is he on a Navy ship? And then somebody blew up the tag, and it was like they made 1,000 of these tags so that they knew they had the exact right amount of door frames for a ship. So I don't know. There's just a lot of weird stuff like that. His SNL appearance, his face.
Oh yeah, those things like there's a lot of weird stuff with him. He's definitely one of those people. Someone doesn't want to ruin Forrest Gump for themselves.
Oh, that's fine. I understand that. I totally get that.
But once again, we got to bring it back to the light here.
Yeah. See, it's so easy for me to dive back in
to the darkness.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, it really is about like, regardless of what's happening with the dark, whether things are true, whether they're not, like we have to keep this high vibration. And it's hard to, that's why sometimes, I mean, I do believe in a lot of the stuff. At the same time, I think a lot of the stuff is supposed to be so horrific to make sure that someone who's awakened could never fully raise their vibration because of how hurt they are by the things that they believe are happening.
You get so bogged down, even if you're looking for this information so that you can just know what's going on. If the information is bathing in darkness, if it's some really dark stuff, you're going to take on some of that energy. Like you always you see people commenting, I don't claim any negative energy, and that I find that funny, like when people comment on videos. But
I've never gotten that comment, but I see it on a lot of other people's pages.
Yeah, but there's something to it because you do kind of absorb a little bit of everything you're looking into, but nothing.
But they also are completely wrong in what they're saying because the way that it works with like the basics of manifestation is that you say what you want, not what you don't want. So they're like, I don't claim negative energy. Let me just keep saying negative energy. And it's like, yeah, dude, you're doing a great job with that. It's like, you know, you got to flip it. Instead of like, I don't claim any negative energy, be like, regardless, I'm surrounded by light. Regardless, I'm protected. Regardless, like, you know, like you have to use the words, you know? Yeah, if you say what you don't want, that's kind of what you get.
It's best if we don't. Asks, so does that mean staying asleep means you're better off? I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Staying asleep, better off? No. Because there's going to be a point, and I say this because I do believe in the prophecies. In all of the prophecies, there's going to be a point where people will have no choice but to see the truth. And not saying this truth of what we're saying about celebrities and stuff. Celebrities are a tiny little portion of the whole big picture of what's happening. They're just very intense because we've been fed them for so long. But the reality of it is that the whole thing, if the celebrities are doing anything shady, it's a very small portion of what's actually happening in the world that needs to be changed. But I don't think and there's a balance. You could be awakened to the more spiritual side and not really that awakened to the conspiracy stuff. That's a great path to go. Usually people can't because they get so intertwined. For me, spirituality and conspiracy were very intertwined.
For me, it was the answer. The spirituality path, which I'm not like super knowledgeable on it, but
the secret.
The spirituality path was kind of the answer to
the answer.
Yeah, all the questions that the dark stuff poses. It's like, well, I'm not with not me, so what am I? If I'm not with that, and I have this visceral horror to that stuff, what am I? And then as soon as I started hearing about to that stuff, what am I? And then as soon as I started hearing about everything's this and everything's that, and you can raise your vibrations, it clicked with me, and that is a way out. And if you wake up, you need to wake up. Waking up, it's not better to be asleep. It might be more comfortable, but when you wake up, you will go through a dark night of the soul, and that's necessary, and you will come out of it. And we were talking earlier about how I had that perspective dump, and that was during one of the darkest periods of my life, and it was during a rebuilding period. I wouldn't trade that for anything. I would never want to undo any of the dark nights I've had to go through, because I love the person that I don't necessarily love the person I am at all times, but I love what did your higher self. I know my higher self loves me, and I know that I can love myself, and that wasn't even an option before I woke up. So you have to go through that dark night of the soul. Not better to be asleep. And I think we have different perspectives on this, but for me, I need prep time to be effective. And if something is going to happen, which we don't need to get into that because it could be anything, everyone has a different idea. All I know is that with the information I have, it emboldens me, and you need to know where you stand. And we both stand on the side of light, and we both stand on helping and raising vibration. And I won't let anything happen to myself or the people around me that doesn't fall in line with those beliefs. So it's better to be awake for sure.
I agree. I think, and being awake is kind of like, it's the greatest adventure. Like, your life, if you don't wake up, your life is going to be so mundane and boring. What do you do? Always play soccer like on the weekends?
You will be better at soccer after you wake up. You'll be better at soccer.
Or like watch sports. Like if you're trying to get your excitement and your adventure, you're getting it from just like vapid places, and not saying everyone, but mostly even people who not necessarily don't need to go as far down the rabbit hole as us, but even look at like all the good like authors and entrepreneurs. Like entrepreneurs are woke. They understand the power of the minds. They understand the power of manifestation. How do you think they got where they are? So you do have to wake up to at least some things, but it doesn't need to be all the dark stuff.
A lot of those entrepreneurs will just tell you that too. They're like, it's manifestation. That's how I did it. So it's not a secret. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about, it seems crazy and it seems unbelievable, but the most powerful people in the world believe it and they act on it. A lot of them act.
And that's why it's been so discredited, because that's how they've attained their power. is through these mystery teachings that are now becoming more common knowledge.
Let's just see if we can get any. Guys, if you have any questions, let's get them out of the way. Let's go through some questions because I think we're kind of winding down here.
Yeah, we're winding down. So let's see some people's top questions.
It seems like a lot of my commenters are still on the Oprah thing. I'm sorry for bringing But what do you think is coming next for the collective who are beginning to wake up? You are literally the perfect person to answer this question. What do you think is coming next?
Up for the collective? Honestly, I think I think the things that are happening right now, the next step is on a personal level. I'm not saying that you're going to see these changes in the outside world when you're looking in your personal outside world, but not on the news. You're not going to see it on the news. You're not going to see all that. On the news, you're going to continue hearing about they're taking your rights away. They're getting this. They're doing that. There's war, this, the debt, the food, the everything horrible, every survival thing, every right that you feel you have, they're going to feel like it's being taken away from you. But if you pull away from that and you actually look at your own life and you go on your own spiritual path and you believe that you can control your reality and that the only good things happen to you, then you will see immediate changes in your life where things fall into place, opportunities come your way. Like we talked about earlier, there is a bit of a purging process. When you're going through these spiritual changes, you're presented sometimes with things that feel like punishment, that you have to prove that you're different now. But those are going to be mixed in with also like, wow, all this stuff I've been working on is coming together. Wow, this job opportunity came. Oh, this thing that I've always wanted, all of a sudden, now I have the chance to get it. And it's like, I think on a personal level, for the next, I do think 2022 into 2023 is going to be a good year for people who've been doing the work for a long time. Like a lot of people who've been doing the spiritual work, who've been waking up, who've been working on their shadow self. I feel like things are falling into place for them.
I can just personally attest to that. I have been working on some form of music or entertainment or, live performance for 10 years. And I've had little successes here and there, just enough to string me along, and it's caused a lot of pain. And then I just had this instant connection and growth this time. And nothing was different other than, like, the thing that was different was myself. I just kept trying. And the day I made my first video, I didn't want to do it. I was in the middle of a workday. I came home for lunch and I just said, just do it. You're driving yourself crazy thinking about doing it and not doing it. So just do it. And then the next day I woke up to a couple 100,000 views, and it hasn't stopped. And that's not going to be like that for everybody, because you do have to do the work that leads up to that. Because if I wouldn't have done that work, if I wouldn't have suffered and questioned myself, I wouldn't have been ready to follow up with like part 2 the next day. And then now what am I doing? And it didn't. And then after that, it didn't even work out right away. It still took a couple weeks. So like, one more thing I want to add to that, it might hurt. Like you might have like physical pain. You might have like raised cortisol in the mornings when you wake up. And that's because on some kind of metaphysical level, you are literally like upgrading, and that's your body telling you you're going to need to be healthier to deal with this stuff.
And people might get ripped out of your life. And if it's someone that you're holding on to, who maybe it's a relationship that you kind of feel like you're not fully there with, that's the other part of awakening and the spiritual journey and stepping into your purpose. Sometimes people get violently ripped out of your life in a way that is so fucked up and traumatic, where you're like, I can't believe this person would betray me. I can't believe that this would happen. And, that's another part of it. But when you look at the big picture, I mean, I experienced that months ago. And then I would not expect where I am right now and how I feel right now, So it's like sometimes people are just not aligned on your path, and the universe is going to remove them. And
but
a lot of times it sucks.
But look what else has happened, because
oh yeah, and it's like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those people moving out of the way.
And like, I know we've talked about it before, but I literally was watching your videos before I started a TikTok. I started a TikTok, and then I had even commented on your page and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know, your TikTok was one of the reasons why I started." And before you even saw that comment, you followed me and like reached out to me, and I was like,
"Yeah." And I messaged you about the hollow Earth, and you told me that, and I was like, "Wow, that's crazy." And it was just kind of quick, the conversation. Then I was driving later on that day, and I was in traffic, and I was like, "Wow, that guy is killing it on TikTok right now," and said that my video inspired him to start posting on TikTok. I'm like, this is amazing.
So it might rip the process. I mean, not might. I think it kind of has to happen because you're gonna be surrounded. I'm like, this is not like a pity thing, but like in December, I was the most alone. I have a very good I have a a very good immediate family that loves me and stuff, but I live away from them. And I had gone through a breakup, and I don't have, like, all my friends are gone, and just my band fell apart. I'm alone, and I was the most alone and isolated that I've ever been in my life, and I needed it because the second I realized I was alone, I completely fell apart. And it's good to have other people you love and care about and like vibe with, but the people I was surrounding myself with were not helping me, and it was absolutely holding me back. And it's not other people's job to help you, but every single person I lost, it was like you were talking about, they were ripped away from me, or it was like this, all of a sudden it was like, fuck you, like, and it was like bad stuff happened, and it was like, I just can't talk to that person anymore. It's too negative. And you're gonna have to, even if someone's not ripped away from you, you might have to make the decision on your own, which is even
it's
harder.
much easier if you make the decision yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you drag your feet, the universe isn't playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a crazy, before the TikTok, at the end of last year, I also had a crazy fucked up experience with everything, crazy breakup, and which was literally hellish. But that happened, and then I was kind of like, I mean, I have a lot of good friends in my life, and I'm lucky that I have friends that live around me. But at the end of December, it was the day that Ghislaine Maxwell was said to be guilty. Something like with the CDC, they said, "Oh, it's only 5 days now, and don't get tested before you go back to work, because you're not going to go back to work if it's negative." And I'm like, this is such bullshit. And I posted about it on my Instagram story. One of my friends, who is a very close friend of mine for a while, and just for the last year, I've been feeling this tension between us of our ideals and our beliefs. And it's like, I have many different friends who believe in different things, people who don't agree with me. It's not a problem for me. But if you think you're going to try to impose and ideas or try to Agent Smith me, no. So she responded to my thing and was like talking about, well, that's not what the CDC is really saying. And like literally came all condescending defending the CDC. And I was like, look, there's something here. You know what? We're not going to be friends anymore. We're not going to talk anymore. I'm not going to feel every time that I post an Instagram story, I need to hold my breath to wait for your shitty response. And she's like, oh, you're projecting on me. And I'm like, no, you're projecting on me. You think I'm some type of Fox News watching Trump supporter conservative? I'm like, you've known me for years. I think both parties are shit. I think all the news is garbage. There's no sides here. Overall blanket statement of like, all of it is shit. And I'm like, but you're trying to fit me into your narrative. After I had this conversation with her, which she kind of like was projecting that I was projecting, it was like, oh, I was like, whatever. Okay, whatever.
Andrew Caps said, LOL, he waited till after the gifts. That's cold. I want to make this clear. This is after my second. What? He waited till after the gifts. That's cold. I responded to somebody about something traumatic. I barely see what's going on. I don't know what any of the gifts do. I don't know what any of them mean, and I didn't see anybody give me anything. I just responded because I saw something sad.
I know. And
But
you know what? That's
get
also,
that energy out of here.
I mean,
I do a lot of work. If I get 9 cents from somebody, you don't need to be worried about
I
that.
know. First of all, thank you
Anyway,
guys for the gifts, but it is hard to
thank you
keep up with
so
them.
much.
It is hard to keep up when, you know, especially when you're doing 2 people on the live. But also just saying, no offense, Andrew, but what we see is a reflection of our inner state. So maybe if that's how you felt, I just want to say maybe that's something a little reflect on.
And it looks like I might have been wrong. Once again, I missed it. See, this is why I don't block people. Because
Andrew, you would have got blocked on my end because you know what? I've got a heavy blocking finger. But I'm going to have to
sorry, Andrew.
because we're all learning here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why, like, JK Ultra is, like, in control of the live, because I'm like, okay, I'll go live, and then you'll come get me once we go.
I'm getting I'm becoming a professional of these lives. Even though I still don't really understand a lot of the things. I was trying to, you know, I forgot how to add you.
Guys, I understand that I got it wrong, and he was talking about something else. Andrew, I'm sorry.
Someone says that I should try to get rid of that blocking finger. Oh, no. No.
Okay, I want to say one more thing about that. It is totally okay for a creator to want to cultivate a group of people that want to go on this journey and not deal with the guys
naysayers.
The questioning and the negative comments are incessant. You guys are here because you enjoy the content, but like
But would it be enjoyable if there was a bunch of people being dicks right now? You know,
I can't even imagine if we had a bunch of like negative people right now. I would have no idea what to do with it.
We would probably not see it because it's hard to keep up with the comments anyway.
That's true.
But it sucks because sometimes, you know, sometimes people also say mean stuff to each other. And it's like, I don't want someone to like come to a video that I posted and then get their feelings hurt. Like, that's messed up.
Yeah.
So if I see people like insulting, but there's a certain amount. If it engages past a certain point, I don't know who's right or wrong anymore. And sometimes I let it ride out because there's sometimes one person will say something and then someone will say something back nasty, but I haven't gone to my phone to be able to really see what was happening or missed it. And then that person gets nasty and then it just goes and goes and goes and goes. And there's a whole trail of nasty comments. And then I'm like, I don't know who's wrong. I guess I'm just going to let them both stay and see what happens.
Well, sometimes that can be the difference between like 500,000 views and 1 million because you get a few people doing that, and every time they comment, pushing it. Someone said, are the negative Nancy's even real? That's such a good question because so often I'll click on the negative comment and see who's leaving it, and it's someone that doesn't follow me, they don't follow anyone, they don't have any followers, and they don't have a picture. So it's like, what's happening? How did you find?
A lot of people have the bot thing. I feel like when someone is a dick and I click on them, they are a person who does this angle to post things, and they are real with a real beard.
I have a guy that he was following me, and I gave him a warning because he was super negative, and I let him say I blocked him today, but this was his profile picture. Okay, last question, guys. Spooky Ho again asks.
Spooky Ho?
Yeah. I'm going to give you this question because I think you're probably more knowledgeable. Any tips on healing childhood trauma and the meaning of it all?
Yes. Okay. So I highly suggest listening to or reading physically if you prefer, but the audiobook is so easy. Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. You can get it for free on YouTube or you can get it on Audible. Dr. Michael Newton, very similar to Dolores. He was a hypnotherapist who was a skeptic. He was trying to disprove past lives. Instead became the greatest freaking teacher of all. And he goes through, so I think that is part of it, is to really understand why things happen, the bigger picture, our soul's journey, what we're meant to learn, because it kind of shows you that when you have that childhood trauma, sometimes your soul chose to have that trauma so that you would be able to heal it, transmute it, and then eventually help other people for the collective to heal the collective trauma. So then you can kind of step into a role of empowerment from the trauma as opposed to victimhood. Victimhood does not help anyone. You know, words like survivor, victim, they're not empowering words. They keep you in a state of identity of someone else's actions. How dare you identify yourself by someone else's actions? Don't do that. And then from there, after you know, you kind of get like the general consensus of why the bigger picture of that any trauma or any bad things would happen, rationalize that idea through that work. It's also in Dolores's work. It's in Brian Weiss's work. It's in so many people's work. But I suggest Journey of Souls. And then, you know, do meditations that are to reset your nervous system, because a lot of times you're holding, just like you were talking before with the pain body, you're holding it in your body. So you need to do meditations to kind of reset your nervous system because you're in that state. So one little thing makes you feel back to the way you felt when you were younger or when that trauma happened. And then after you do that work, then you could do a contract ending cord cutting exercise. Don't go to the finish line and do the cord cutting exercise first because you're not ready to cut the cord. You still have to learn the lessons and you still have to forgive. And that's the other hard part, is the only way is really to forgive. They don't deserve it. Don't tell them you forgive them. Don't. It's not their business if you forgive them. You forgive them for yourself from your own heart. And that takes time. You know, that could take a couple years, but I don't think you would have to if you're doing that other work.
Wow. Well, guys, thank you so much for the gifts and the amazing comments. I'm sure we'll be back more than likely next Monday. And JK, also thank you so much. I'm sure we'll talk soon. You guys were amazing. Again, you blew my mind. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you, guys. This was so great.
Thanks so much.
See you guys soon.
Bye.